At a frozen time, a man holding a girl in front of a truck wonders if he's dead. An angel with a white dog appears, confirming that his death is imminent. The man, a newly formed 21-year-old named Jingyujiju, hears with a dark expression. He remembers jumping to save the girl from the truck, witnessed by the same white dog. In the void, he reflects that this is not heaven, while the angel explains that he is speaking to his soul. She and her dog recognize your surprise with this strange turn of events. With a gentle smile, she presents herself as a goddess, shocking Jingyuji. While Jingyuji processes the information, the dog clarifies that she is a time and space manager. Jingyuji ponders the revelation while the dog explains that he was sent to help the girl. The dog admits he lost his sense of security on Earth while watching a butterfly. A flashback shows the dog pulling the girl into the street while chasing the butterfly. The goddess bows, expressing deep sorrow for her carelessness that led to the accident. She apologizes profusely while Jingyuji is silent, absorbing everything. He's shocked, realizing that his death was caused by a goddess mistake. His eyes sharpen as he understands that a being before him is superior to all mankind. Remembering his military training, he knows that he must remain perfectly still before a superior. While a light shines on her hands, she announces she has a proposition for him. He puts himself in a position of sense, scaring the goddess, who stutters another apology. She notes that their time is short, and her dog looks forward to it. Holding an effigy of her soul, she asks if he will allow her to reincarnate him. She plans to copy his body, soul, and memories to transfer him to another world. She warns that time is running out and her body will soon be destroyed. With a serious look, she admits that her authority to stop time is limited. She begs him, not wanting his life to end like this, and asks him to accept. Jingyuji breathes deeply and constantly, preparing to give his answer. He agrees, but informs the surprised goddess that you have a question for her. He asks if it is impossible to be reincarnated back into his original world. It confirms that this is impossible, for a death cannot be reversed in the same world. He accepts her answer, but asks another question she claims to be beyond her authority. He asks to contact his family, but she confirms that this is not possible in a different world. She emphasizes that he must understand that he will never see them again. Jingyuji swallows dry, accepting the painful purpose of his words. A memory of a happy family passes through his mind as he confirms his understanding. He then announces that he has one last question for the goddess. Turning his back on her, he asks about the fate of the accident girl. He wants to know if the little girl he protected will survive this ordeal. He looks up with concern, awaiting her response about the fate of the child. The expression of the goddess softens as she considers her final and unselfish question. With a gentle smile, she closes her eyes and confirms that the girl is safe. She explains that, thanks to him, the girl was saved unharmed while a police officer comforts her. With his duty accomplished, Jingyuji salutes and asks the goddess to reincarnate him. The goddess smiles, thanking him for his agreement before sending him on his way. Holding a ball of light, she offers you her blessing for her new life. He questions the blessing, and it confirms that it will grant him a new power. While she urges him to remember his words, he is drawn into a new world. He materializes in the midst of ruins, wondering if this is the other world, and sees a familiar statue. He looks at the statue with growing recognition, questioning whether it is the goddess. He confirms it's a statue of the goddess, realizing it's in a temple. He looks at his hands, frightened by the feeling of his new existence. He marvels at not feeling different, questioning if this is a copied body. Before the temple, he feels as if he had simply been transported to a new place. Adventured in the forest, a sudden rustling sound puts him on high alert. He spies on the dense foliage, feeling as something is there. His expression is tense and focused while he examines the dark forest. He sees a path through the trees, a potential route to a village. Realizing that he needs equipment, he remembers the blessing of the goddess, and a light bursts out of his hands. A modern assault rifle materializes from light, scaring him. He recognizes the Type 89 rifle as part of the goddess' inventory ability. On the way to the temple, he confirms that the skill worked. Remembering that she provided what he should have, he quickly teamed up, tying up his new military standard combat boots. He wears a full camouflage uniform, preparing for the unknown. With a quick and practiced movement, he ties a bayonet to the rifle. A souvenir confirms that this is the equipment he should receive after his mission. Now fully equipped, he tightens the handle of his helmet, his determined expression. He's ready on standard ground self-defense force equipment. Before leaving the temple grounds, he gives a final and clear salute. He offers a silent word of thanks to the statue of the goddess for her help. With a determined face, he promises to see what he can do with this new life. He leaves for the path that leads to the dark and threatening forest. He swallows in dry, nervous, his training taking control while he proceeds with caution. As he walks, the scene changes to his polished shoes on a tiled floor. Your formal shoes cross the threshold, triggering a memory. A young Jing-Yi is facing a panel of officers for an interview. An officer asks him to explain why he wants to join the self-defense forces. Young Jing-Yi hesitates for a moment before finding his voice. The conviction of your past self echoes in your present. He wanted to protect people's lives. Your profile is shown. Your clear juvenile determination. He remembers looking at a recruitment poster, determined to protect the innocent. He remembers strenuous training, believing that with power he could save more lives. He remembers being in a field exercise, convinced he could save more lives as an officer. That conviction was the reason he chose this difficult path. His thoughts turned to his death. Happy to save a life in his final moments. Lying on the floor, he felt he had no regrets about how he died. But now, in this new world, he realizes that saving a life wasn't enough. The memory of a smiling girl from her past strengthens her determination to protect someone. The image of the girl reassures him, because he knows he can still do that. His focus returns to the present, his eyes glistening when he sees something ahead. He sees a clearing in the darkness, realizing with hope that it is the way out. A sudden, sharp cry from the forest puts Jingoji on high alert. He recognizes the sound as a scream and immediately runs towards its origin. A young woman with long rabbit ears is on the ground, terrified. He comes across a bloody scene, a dead horse lying by the wheel of a wagon. A corpulent and wounded orc holds the dead horse, looking fiercely at the girl. The orc closes the fist, its raw face fixed on a threatening look. The terrified girl, Belle, understands her silent command not to approach. A robust man with long hair screams in alarm, realizing Belle is still there. Belle's on the floor, her knees bleeding, unable to get up. The expression of the orc becomes placid as he faces his defenseless victim. His eyes set on Belle, his irregular teeth visible as he prepares to advance. A young woman with prominent rabbit ears gasps, confronted by a corpulent orc of irregular teeth. In a close-up, the eyes of the monster glow with threatening intensity from within the shadows. His grotesque tongue projects, licking the cheek of the terrified woman in a horrifying gesture. The immense, dark hand of the creature extends, preparing to grab the petrified girl. Watching from afar, a robust man curses his distance, knowing that he cannot intervene in time. She closes her jaw and closes her eyes, preparing for the inevitable and dark end. Without warning, the extended hand of the orc explodes in a burst of violent and unexplained force. The girl's eyes open in astonishment, questioning what just happened. Your robust companion looks with a witty shock, letting out a sigh of total disbelief. The orc itself looks at his mutilated hand, completely perplexed by the sudden attack. A second explosion, more powerful, obliterates the monster's head in a rain of blood. Headless Beast's shockwave throws the rabbit-haired girl on the floor. Lying stunned on earth, she murmurs in confusion, trying to process the event. A calm voice cuts through chaos, asking if she's okay. A soldier in modern camouflage is over her, offering a gloved hand to help. She looks at the hand offered, hesitantly agreeing to accept your help. His look turns beyond him, to the headless corpse, who suddenly begins to move. She screams a desperate warning for him to be careful with the monster still on the move. The soldier's expression hardens with determination as he turns to face the revived threat. He brutally sticks the barrel of his rifle deep into the remaining orbit of the creature. While the monster is struggling, he wonders what kind of world has giant demons and attackers. He swears to protect the girl, no matter what strange world he finds himself in. A confident smile spreads across her face as he reassures her, saying she will be fine. The girl looks at him, his expression a mixture of relief and admiration. The headless orc suddenly wraps his arm around the soldier, lifting him up. A close-up shows the monster's powerful grip closing like a walrus around his torso. The soldier swears, stunned that some rifle bullets were not enough to take him down. Their shock quickly turns into determination, seeing it as a chance to test their limits. The sounds of a fierce struggle echo through the forest as it is raised higher. His eyes burst in alarm when he realizes that the creature has reinforcements nearby. Two more bountiful orcs emerge from the trees, confirming that the creature had allies. He fires a burst of fire, confirming that his weapon is indeed effective against them. He estimates that an automatic burst concentrated on the head should be fatal. The second orc of reinforcement, armed with a stick with thorns, prepares to attack him. The orc with a club jumps in the air, dropping his gun on him. The soldier, immobilized, knows he can't point his rifle in time. The soldier's expression is gloomy as he faces the impending and unstoppable blow. At the last second, arrows and a sword hit the attacking orc, saving him. The soldier observes surprised while his allies intervene successfully in the fight. Gilbert and Alina are screaming that they are there to help him. He remembers the blessing of the goddess, realizing he can understand their Japanese. Galvanized, he ignores the bearer of the stick and aims at the orc that holds him captive. He lines up a perfect shot through his iron sight, targeting the remaining eye. With a smooth click, your finger pulls the trigger, firing the decisive shot. The sound of the only gunshot echoes powerfully through the trees. The massive orc collapses, and the soldier lands, announcing that he has no more bullets. A slightly stunned expression crosses his face while he asks if it really is over. He declares the suppression of this complete infernal world. He touches his cheek, a thoughtful and slightly confused expression on his face. Belle, the rabbi-taired girl, observes with a similar perplexed expression. He realizes scared that he was so focused that he didn't notice her ears. Gilbert runs and slaps his back hard, praising his incredible display. He pours and prays over the soldier's incredible explosive magic while Alina smiles. A refined voice from a carriage calls for Gilbert, asking if it's safe. Gilbert happily confirms it's safe and calls Antoniasen out. An older man elegantly dressed with a cane comes down from the carriage. He presents himself as Antonio, a merchant, thanking the soldier for saving him. He clarifies that Jingyuji is his last name, a detail Antonio notes. Antonio and the others suddenly bow deeply, surprising the soldier. Antonio asks if he is a noble, profusely apologizing for his own rudeness. The soldier recognizes that this complex social situation is not good for him. He stutters that he's probably not a nobleman, looking for a way out. He makes a quick decision, deciding to fake amnesia as his best option. He points to a map, asking if Jingyuji came through the Lost Forest. Antonio scratches his chin thoughtfully, asking if Jingyuji-sama might be. Jingyuji realizes that this is the perfect cover story and confirms with conviction. Gilbert and the girls accept that, commenting that he's a loser. They conclude that his amnesia is understandable, and he's lucky to have survived. Jingyuji acknowledges that this means that now he is in trouble. Antonio Kaylee offers to escort him to the city for his own safety. He explains that, as Jingyuji saves his life, he wishes to reward him properly. The small caravan of carriages leaves on a dirt road. Inside the carriage, Antonio explains the details of this world to the amnesiac Jingyuji. He describes it as a fantasy world with magic and demons, as well as in games. He adds that culture and social structure are similar to medieval Europe. A diagram shows the structure of the city, administered by an assembly and large guilds. He explains that his group consists of adventurers Gilbert and Hana escorting him. Gilbert, laughing, calls the ogre's attack a blessing in disguise despite his losses. Gilbert explains that demons are disassembled to obtain materials, such as strong ogre leather for armor. Antonio promises to bite the ogres of Jingyuji-sama, who readily agrees. Jingyuji is amazed to realize that he earned the equivalent of 3 years of money. Out of curiosity, Jingyuji gently pulls one of Belle's ears, scaring her. He retreats in shock, exclaiming that her ears are real. He releases the term beast man while Antonio laughs at his complete amnesia. Antonio kindly encourages shy Belle to introduce herself to Jingyuji-sama. She formally introduces herself as Belle, a servant in the service of Antonia-sama. A fun one, Antonio observes while a shamed Belle receives a formal greeting from Jingyuji. Jingyuji's mind travels to Akihabara, amazed at the fact that a real rabbit ears maid exists in this world. Antonio's posture changes for business, his hands intertwine while he prepares a question. He comments on Jingyuji's unusual costume and asks the name of the printed fabric. Jingyuji understands the merchant's interest, but knows he cannot explain modern technology. Pretending memory loss, he suggests that the pattern is camouflage, that Antonio repeats thoughtfully. Antonio, understanding your amnesia, patiently tells you to take as long as you need to remember the details. Jingyuji adds that his Type 88 helmet is the same design, and passing Antonio with his painting. The merchant's curiosity turns to the rifle, calling it a wand of magic activation and asking to hold it. Before delivering it, Jingyuji does a mental security check, ensuring the bayonet is sheathed. It confirms that the charger is empty and the arming lever is in an open position for safety. He agrees, hoping Antonio doesn't ask too many difficult questions about his supposed wand. Upon taking the rifle, Antonio is immediately surprised by its weight, noting that it is made of iron. Antonio declares that it is the most elaborate wand he has ever seen, leaving Jingyuji amazed. He respectfully returns the wizard's precious magic activation wand to its owner. Apologizing for his rudeness, Antonio acknowledges that the wand must be very important to Jingyuji. He confesses that it is a bad habit of his getting overly excited about unusual market items. Despite the incessant questions, Jingyuji concludes that Antonio seems to be a nice and charming person. The caravan continues its journey, with Antonio's questions continuing non-stop until night. nightfall. Under a starry sky, the moon rises on the trees as darkness sets in its path. The leader of the adventurers, Gilbert, orders a stop, deciding that they will camp for the night. The group set up their camp in a clearing, gathering around a crackling fire. Antonio instructs rabbit-head maid Belle to prepare the evening meal. Jinguji gets scared when Belle takes a fresh baguette out of a small, decorated magic bag. Antonio explains that these inventory bags are common tools, but expensive for travelers. This revelation provides Jinguji with a perfect cover to access her own inventory backpack. Belle presents a bowl to Jinguji, who is thrilled to be served by the maid of her dreams. He eats happily next to a blushing Belle, declaring the delicious food and the perfect experience. Feeling that he should contribute, Jinguji decides not to be the only one to benefit from their kindness. He offers to share some of his own portable food ration with his new companions. A reminder of the goddess confirms that her inventory has the ability to refuel once a day. The lesson of the goddess specified that only items of her previous life could be replenished. His companions, Gilbert and Antonio, are curious, asking if what he is really food. Jinguji proudly presents his Type 1 combat ration, also known as canned food or kanmashi. He explains that the cans are open with a small P38 can opener included. After heating the cans in hot water for 30 minutes, the food is ready to be served. 30 minutes later, it opens a can with a satisfactory click, announcing that the meal is ready. It reveals the main dishes: canned chicken and rice, mixed rice, and simple white rice. Accompaniments include canned sausages, meat with vegetables, and hamburgers. As a final touch, it features 3 small cans of canned radish or takwan. He invites everyone to share the meal, presenting the food to his intrigued companions. The group is fascinated by the aroma and vision of what they call cute things. Antonio is especially captivated by the yellow pickles and plans, a food he has never seen. The merchant takes his first hesitant bite on unknown food. The group sits together, sharing the strange meal, but welcome from another world. Jinguji eats his portion, happy his companions seem to like the food. He finishes his meal quickly, leaving his dish completely clean. Belle wonders if he's finished. He explains his fast eating habit. Later around the fire, Antonio offers Gilbert and Hannah a drink. Exhausted from his first day, he stays with Belle, contemplating the distant lights of the city. Jinguji observes, with a silent and contemplative smile on his face. Antonio is totally shocked to learn that canned people have a lifespan of 2 years. Unable to contain his merchant excitement, he presses Jinguji for details on how they are made. Belle unleashes a small sigh of amazement shared with the revelation. Jinguji announces that his destiny, the city, is now in sight. They arrive at the massive gate of the city, where the carriages are carefully lined up to enter. Gilbert explains that this is where cargo and identities are inspected, which causes panic in Jinguji. Without an ID, he is afraid the guards will just send him away. The guard calls their turn, and Gilbert confirms it's your line. A jolly guard, Amanda, greets Gilbert, provoking him for delaying the line. When asked about the charge, Gilbert reveals that they have the bodies of ogres. Amanda is amazed, asking if there are really 3 of them. Gilbert laughs at how funny Amanda seems to be having fun. He presents an identification plate, shocking Jinguji with his familiarity. Amanda uses a magic board to scan the plate and confirm Gilbert's identity. Realizing that the Guardian board can read the sign, Jinguji prepares to use yours. It takes a step forward, presenting its JSDF stainless steel identification plate and declaring its name. Amanda holds her bright slate on his plate, and her magical runes activate. She confirms her identity as Jinguji. Noting that it is her first time, she formally welcomes them to the free trade city of Sveni. Inside the busy city, Antonio comments that Jinguji must be a medalist after all. Jinguji asks Gilbert what a medalist is, and Gilbert notes that it is not surprising. Antonio explains that guilds assign classifications based on skills and achievements. Gilbert adds that a medal identification is only issued to those of a certain high rank. The graph reveals that Jinguji's classification is far superior to that of Antonio and Gilbert. Jinguji remembers that he was promoted to first sergeant in his ancient world. Gilbert, thrilled to make friends with a big shot, suggests that they have a drink sometime. Jinguji notes that first he has some business to attend to in the guild hall. It stops at the entrance of the great and imposing building. Jinguji enters the guild room, looking a little intimidated. 2 women in elegant dresses welcome Antonio back to the guild lounge. Antonio greets them politely, confirming their return. He asks the women to accompany his guest, Jinguji, to the bottom of the hall. Women politely stop Jinguji, informing him that weapons are not allowed inside. The attention of beautiful women leaves Jinguji, ensure her female immunity meter plummeting. Rabbit-haired maid Belle stands between Jingeji and one of the women. Belle offers to prepare a tea for their meeting. She then asks Jingeji to follow her to the reception room. An inside voice invites you to sit down. Jingeji enters the opulent room, his immunity meter still dangerously low. A close-up shows a pair of wide eyes and observers enjoying a new scene. Inside a luxurious reception room, Jingeji notes its splendor and questions the importance of Antoniasen. When the knock sounds on the heavy door, Jingeji gives permission to enter. A beautiful woman with long, pointed ears enters the room, apologizing for the interruption. Jingeji stares, his eyes wide with shock, when he realizes he is looking at an elf. Your inner thoughts confirm your theory that the elves really exist in this world. The elf expresses her concern about Antonio's late return, who apologizes for worrying her. With a dramatic gesture, Antonio reports his dangerous journey, explaining that he thought he would die. He reveals that they were attacked by 3 ogres. Antonio assures the elf that they are safe because Jingeji killed all 3 ogres. With her hand on her chin, the elf studies Jingeji with a penetrating and analytical look. She wonders if this is the person she was expecting. Jingeji, feeling uncomfortable, assumes that his caution is due to his strange and foreign appearance. He finds it strange and uncomfortable to be judged so intensely by such a beautiful woman. Under his cold look, his internal female immunity meter plummets into the void. The tense and silent scrutiny continues, making Jingeji increasingly nervous. The elf finally apologizes, turning around to answer a knock on the door. Belle, the rabbit-haired maid, enters the room carrying a tea service for the guests. Seeing her, the cold posture of the elf crumbles as she shouts Belle's name in surprise and hugs her hard. The elf expresses her immense relief that Belle is well. Observing the emotional demonstration, Jingeji's own internal meter reaches maximum and breaks. The elf releases Belle, her face now serious, while holding her by her shoulders. She turns to Jingeji and asks Belle if it's true that he saved her life. Belle, with her cheeks flushed, timidly confirms that Jingeji was indeed her savior. Listening to this confirmation, the expression of the elf softens with understanding. With a graceful turn, she pulls herself together and approaches the soldiers seated. She performs as Eldra, vice president of Sveni's Guild of Traders, and thanks him. She offers a late presentation, her posture now of deep respect. Jingeji introduces herself, but questions her title, confused about who the president is. Antonio laughs, ashamed, admitting with a slap on the head he forgot to mention. Eldra and Jingeji watch as the truth is about to be revealed. With a broad smile, Antonio reveals his true identity as president of a guild of traders. The group begins their meeting with a tea, with Antonio making a formal presentation. Now that the performances are over, Antonio goes straight to the real purpose of his meeting. He holds an ornate identification board, asking Jingeji if he recognizes the guy. Jingeji confirms that the guard, Amandasen, had a similar magical device. He realizes Antonio's using the painting to investigate his ID card and faked Ania. Antonio looks at the magic painting, wondering what information he'll reveal from the board. He asks Jingeji if he's from a distant country of Azuma. Eldra explains that Azuma is an island nation located far east. She comments that Jingeji's appearance reminds her of the people of that land. She connects his situation to a legendary hero, asking if he's a lost. Eldra reports the story of a great war against demons that occurred 80 years ago. In that war, a hero named Kojiro-sama suddenly appeared out of nowhere. With Kojiro's help, the resistance forces in the smallest number managed to defeat Lord Demon's army. After the war, the hero was in the midst of the desolate and ruined landscape. He then embarked on a long and difficult journey to find his way home. At the end of his journey, he founded Azuma's own country. Elder claims that the elves who fought in the war noticed Kojiro's similar appearance to Jingeji's. Jingeji realizes that the details of the story strongly suggest a connection with Japan from his world. The group walks through the large hall, having found no other clues besides Azuma. Jingeji feels a hint of guilt, wishing he hadn't lied about his memory loss. Eldra suggests that Kojiro's story may be the key to discovering Jingeji's identity. She offers to write to her village for more information, and Jingeji agrees eagerly. He learns more about Kojiro and Azuma with Eldra's help. As he prepares to leave, he thanks Antonio-sama for his time. He asks where Belle is going, and Antonio answers that she's on a mission. Antonio notes that it is almost lunchtime. With a cheerful look on his face, he asks Jingeji-sama if there's any food he doesn't like, extending an invitation. The group arrives at a high-class restaurant, a luxurious and busy establishment. A hostess warmly greets Antonio-sama, recognizing her important status. Antonio explains he didn't make a reservation, but they always have a room in the back for him. They are taken to a private dining room and elegantly decorated. Jingeji feels nervous about having dinner with his superiors, but Antonio suggests a drink first. Elder suggests a good wine that arrived that morning, with which Antonio agrees. Antonio asks Jingeji if he drinks alcohol and the soldier readily agrees. Jingeji's military training dictates that the only response to a superior's offer is with pleasure. A bottle of red wine and several glasses are placed on the table. Antonio looks at the wine, deciding it's a little early, but it should be fine. He raises his cup, proposing a toast to the safe return of his group. Suddenly, with a look of shock, Jingeji and Elder realize that Antonio has disappeared. Jingeji looks around, confused, while Antonio's voice confirms he's still there. An angry dwarf comes in, holding Antonio and screaming he has no time to waste. He demands to know why Antonio called him his work just for a drink. The dwarf complains that a whiny rabbit with his tongue stuck was sent for him. The dwarf's intense look falls on Jingeji, his eyes narrowing. His powerful hand closes in a strong fist and veins. Jingeji's inner thoughts confirm his suspicion that dwarfs exist in this world. The dwarf looks back angry, identifying his new companion as a dwarf. Jingeji stands up and performs politely as Joe Jingeji. The dwarf's eyes narrow with fury with the mention of a family name. He violently slaps Jingeji in the hand, screaming that he despises the nobles. Antonio intervenes quickly, explaining that Jingeji is not a nobleman. The dwarf's anger disappears and he apologizes, leading Jingeji to review his opinion. Antonio reveals the real reason why he called the dwarf to show him canned products. He presents a tin to the dwarf, explaining that the food inside can last 2 years. The dwarf, Henderson, inspects the can with great interest, its serious expression. Antonio asks him eagerly if he thinks he can create something similar. Tender's eyes spread, his craftsman mind captivated by the challenge. With a loud laugh, he asks for more wine and demands Jingeji can. The table is now covered in empty wine bottles and a plate of finished food. Jingeji explains the canning process in 2 stages of sealing and removing air to the dwarf. The dwarf, most interested in his drink, questions how the air is removed. He ignores the details because Jingeji is lost. The dwarf, most interested in his drink, questions how the air is removed. With a powerful squeak, a dwarf named Tender presents a large steak, gently telling his guests to eat now and worry later. Prided Jingeji agrees happy, reviewing his opinion to conclude that midgets are kind. When he cuts the meal, he realizes with emotion that it is the first fresh meat, not pickled, that he eats in this new world. He lifts a piece of shiny steak and covered in sauce on his fork. Taking his first bite, he is dominated by the rich and tasty flavor. The taste of real meat is a revelation, a ghost cow appearing behind it. He can't believe he's eating a real steak with a delicious vegetable sauce. Suddenly, Jingeji raises his eyes from his dish, a brilliant idea hitting him. The dwarf Tender smiles, confirming that he understands the young man's thought. The merchant Antonio smiles, agreeing enthusiastically with Jingeji's unsaid plan. Suddenly, Jingeji raises his eyes from his dish, a brilliant idea hitting him. The 3 men are united in their excitement with the potential of canned steak. After the meal, a single empty dish is next to several empty bottles of wine. Tender, having finished his food, decides to return to his forge. Jingeji is amazed, realizing that the dwarf eats even faster than he does. He wipes his mouth with a napkin, satisfied after the full meal. Later, the graceful elf Elder notices the modern watch on Jingeji's wrist. She correctly deduces that he must be connected to the legendary hero, Kojiro. Elder explains that Tender's watch is an exact copy of one of Kojiro's times. Kojiro's influences, she reveals, also included standardization of weights and measurements. He changed the course of the war not only with strength, but with new tactics. The group later arrives at the large brick building of the Guild of Traders. Inside a busy kitchen, Antonio greets Jingeji and Tender, apologizing for the wait. He explains that everything is prepared, with the cans heating up in the water. A cook shrewdly tells Antonio that he will be surprised at the tasty content. Antonio's anticipation grows, excited to taste the new canned food. The dish is revealed, Type 1 combat ration, canned curry. Jingeji explains that the spicy sauce is usually served on white rice. Antonio is intrigued by the unknown scent, but stimulating and appetizing. A blindfolded elf is also captivated by the smell rising from open cans. Elder, however, is immediately repelled by the unattractive brown color of food. The curry is served on a rice bed, ready for the taste test. Antonio and Tender attack, declaring it's spicy, but incredibly tasty. Jingeji observes their reactions. Blood, they seem to like it. He expects with some apprehension the opinion of the demanding elf. Your first impression is that food looks muddy and unappetizing. Jingeji watches closely as she takes the spoon to her lips. Despite her reservations, she puts the curry spoon in her mouth. She takes a hesitant little bite, the taste taking her by surprise. When questioned about her opinion, she struggles to find the words to describe her. Horrendo, she touches her pointy ear, admitting that the taste is too complex for a word. Having a drink, she seems satisfied, which brings relief to Jingeji. After the meal, the three men sit down for a serious discussion. Jingeji theorizes that creating a vacuum will be the biggest obstacle to Kang. Rabbit-haired maid Belle comes running in, interrupting her important work. She whispers urgently in Antonio's ear, his face an alarm mess. He considers the news for a moment, deciding there's nothing to do. Tender sighs, declaring that it is time for them to close the day. He then asks a surprised Jingeji to join them on a mission. The group heads for the grand building of the Guild of Adventurers. A long-haired adventurer named Gilbert greets them with a joyful wave. He apologizes for calling them guilds so suddenly. Tender murmurs, questioning why he had to come along. As they enter, they are greeted by an enormous and curious crowd. Inside, a muscular adventurer argues aloud, refusing to believe a story. Gilbert presents his brother, the guild master, who brought them here. The guild master thanks them for coming, hoping to finally convince the stubborn man. The angry eyes of the muscular adventurer fall on the newcomers. He faces Jingeji, a hostile look of recognition on his face. He points out an accusing finger, calling Jingeji a bully. The man Goliath shouts that there is no way Jingeji can defeat 3 ogres. Antonia and his companions insist that an unbelievable story is true. Goliath feels like everyone in the room is trying to make a fool of him. He gesticulates in anger towards his own impressive shield. Even he, the adventurer of rank C Goliath, the iron-coated, failed. Looking at guild's rankings, he realizes he's offended the upper ranks. Goliath insists on proving his point for the skeptic Tendar. In an outdoor arena, he proposes a test of the strength of his shield. The viewers wonder what is the purpose of this sudden force test. Goliath is ready, prepared to demonstrate his power. He supports a heavy sword against his shield upon a barrel. With a powerful fireball cry, Tendar launches a magical attack, the flame ball roaring through the air towards the shield. The viewers marvel at the display of real and powerful magic. After the explosion of fire, the shield remains completely unharmed. Goliath boasts of the undeniable power of his iron shield. He declares that his sacred wood and steel will repel any attack. Tendar recognizes the incredible power of the shield against fireballs. He admits he also wants to see Jingyuji's explosive magic. Tendar suggests that Jingyuji apologizes, but he categorically refuses. A target training memory passes through Jingyuji's mind. An instructor had ordered him to shoot the target on his stomach. Jingyuji announces that he himself will challenge the shield. He unfolds the biffle of his rifle, aiming at the shield coated with iron. The 4th mission on the Guild of Adventurers officially begins. Goliath asks Tendar what he's doing while the dwarf covers his ears. Tendar observes his serious and expectant expression. Tendar explains that the young man told him to cover his ears. The ornate shield is ready, waiting for the approaching attack. Jingyuji concentrates, his eye fixed on the target through his sights. Jingyuji's finger pulls the trigger, ready to open fire. With a deafening roar, a stream of bullets flies toward the target. Jingyuji remains focused, his intense expression while firing his weapon. A man with a mohawk reacts with an expression of pure and absolute shock. 2 men, one bald and one with long hair, scream out of amazement from a nearby bow. An elf and a girl with rabbit ears stare, their faces full of astonished disbelief. A blinding flash and a deafening roar burst from the point of impact of the object. The large ornate shield now lies on the ground, riddled with holes and totally destroyed. Its owner, Goliath, murmurs over its lost shield while a dwarf notices that the young man's prediction was correct. A wooden barrel used as support for the target is obliterated, and a voice comments that it was good Goliath not to have been the target. Standing in the center of the arena, Private Jingyuji announces that he is now out of ammunition. The whole crowd bursts out in applause, shouting awesome. To the lone soldier, Jingyuji remains stoic, noting that everyone is now convinced of his power. Goliath continues to mourn the loss of his precious shield. The dwarf, Tendar, hit him firmly on the shoulder. Tendar tells Goliath to bring in the shield for repair later, warning that it will be expensive. Turning his attention to Jingyuji, Tendar addresses him as young. The dwarf approaches the soldier, his arms crossed and his astute expression. Tendar comments that Jingyuji's gun is a very interesting machine gun. Jingyuji is alarmed, realizing that the dwarf knows what a weapon is. He remembers Tendar had a watch, inferring that he knows about the equipment of the hero Kojiro. Tendar assures Jingyuji that he will continue to call his weapon explosive magic. With a shrewd smile, the dwarf demands Jingyuji's story later as payment for his silence. A bald man, Albert, hits Jing Yuji's back, exclaiming how amazing the show was. Albert laughs with Will while his brother Gilbert notes that his excitement is exaggerated. An elf gently tells rabbit-haired girl Belle that she can stop covering her ears. Belle watches, her eyes still full of shock and admiration. From your perspective, a red-headed girl named Anne leaps the steps of the stadium and lands gracefully in the arena, her expression of frantic urgency. She runs forward, crying for the master of the guild. Sliding till she stops, she kneels before the group of men. The guild master, Albert, turns to ask what's wrong. Anne, breathless, reports a major problem near the northern village. Another adventurer shouts that the site is near his hometown, while Anne reveals that a wyvern has appeared. A soldier named Jing Yuji observes, confused with the unknown word wyvern. The corpulent master of the guild, Albert, confirms that the news came from a village messenger. Anne turns to Jing Yuji, remembering her powerful explosive magic from her previous encounter. Her eyes wide with desperate hope, she expresses her certainty that he can kill him. She then begs him to come to her village immediately. Albert tries to calm the troubled Anne, who buries her face in Jing Yuji's uniform. A profile photo reveals Albert's serious expression while he evaluates the serious situation. In the arena, he screams orders for someone to call the city guards. Among the adventurers who mobilized, Jing Yuji asks the dwarf tender what a wyvern is. Tenderly informs him that he is a small dragon, shocking the soldier. A vision of the beast reveals a fast and formidable dragon with hard scales like steel. Tendering men reveals the most worrying fact. Wyverns love to eat people. Jing Yuji is horrified by this revelation as Anne shrinks by her side. She grabs his arm, his face a mask of terror and urgency. Albert summons all high-ranking adventurers to join the subjugation mission. The warrior Goliath faces the remains of his shield on the floor of the arena. Goliath requests permission from the guild master to lend equipment from the armory. Approaching the warrior, Jing Yuji apologizes for destroying his shield during the previous conflict. Goliath hears the apology, his stoic and indecipherable expression. He absolves Jing Yuji's guilt, claiming he started it. Anne asks if Jing Yuji goes too, and he agrees, counting on her. As the sun begins to set, the sky fills with dark clouds. A group of adventurers are ready outside the guild, preparing to leave. Under Albert's command, the subjugation team forms at remarkable speed. Jing Yuji notes his military discipline while Gilbert asks about the route. An adventurer suggests that the quickest route is on horseback along the main road. Anne is frantically opposed, insisting that they hurry and follow another path. The sun sets on a watchtower of the village, highlighting the limited time they have. Gilbert explains that even the main roads are surrounded by demons at night. He concludes that they must wait until morning, leaving Anne devastated by the delay. She screams in protest, insisting that they should go help as soon as possible. With a look of terror, she reveals that her village was attacked by a wyvern before. A reminder of his burning village under the shadow of a wyvern passes through his mind. In the flashback, the terrifying beast advances, his mouth with fangs wide open. Two small children, your brother and a friend, look up in absolute horror. Tears run down her face as she begs him to avoid a repetition of tragedy. His emotional appeal touches Jing Yuji, whose expression becomes resolute. He turns to the two adventurous leaders, Albert and Gilbert, to announce his decision. Standing up, Jing Yuji stands firm in his resolution to act immediately and alone. With unwavering conviction, he declares he will go to the village alone. He promises to travel through demon-infested night, moving faster than any horse. The two leaders are at the city gate, questioning if he's serious. Gilbert, however, smiles, expressing his excitement to see what tricks Jing Yuji will. Their conversation is interrupted by the sudden appearance of the young woman, Anne. Using her helmet, Anne melts in praise of her faith in her incredible explosive magic. She explains that Jing Yuji needs it to show her the way. A bright light suddenly bursts out of the gate, revealing a silhouette approaching. A distant watchtower, a village guard is on watch under the night sky. He's scared of a strange sound, questioning what he just heard. See a light on arrows and he immediately feels it may be a wyvern. The guard realizes that the light is on the ground, pointing to its impossible speed. They arrive at the modest wooden house at the head of the northern village. Inside, they get the dark news that Wyvern has already made 6 victims. The tired village chief explains that the beast is known to attack at dawn. A mother and her son reveal the constant fear that stole the sleep of the villagers. Anne shrinks, frightened by an unexpected touch, her palpable anxiety. Jing Yuji gently puts a reassuring hand on his helmet, calming his nerves. He looks at the boss, promising everything will be all right now. Anne faces Jing Yuji, her own fear replaced by surprise and hope. A man named La Chief has a concerned expression. his hands together nervously. Anne faces Jinkyuji, her own fear replaced by surprise and hope. From a high wooden watchtower, the soldier asks for more details on the ecology of the Wyvern. He examines the dark horizon with a pair of high-powered binoculars. Her companion, An, observes with a concerned and nervous expression. She timidly interrupts her questioning to ask if they can dine. With a reassuring smile, he suggests they turn around on the watch. He advises you that being constantly tense will hinder you when the time comes. A high stomach snoring suddenly bursts out, and he realizes how hungry she is. From the observation point, he tells her to go ahead and eat and looks with curiosity of wide eyes at the container of unknown food that he produces. He presents her with a convenience store, katsudon, explaining that it is his favorite. A memory hits him, asking an employee to warm up the meal. Anne is amazed at the hot, delicious and completely new aroma. Having finished her meal and joyfully exclaimed how delicious she was. Calmed by food, she starts telling him her story about her dead parents. After losing her brother too, she chose to become an adventurer. She reveals that the bows she carries belong to her brother. A fierce determination fills her eyes as she expresses her desire to defeat the Wyvern. Realizing she's been talking for a long time, she thanks him for listening. She thinks to herself that being with him reminds her of her brother. Her voice suddenly draws her out of her sleepy and relaxed state. Together in the watchtower, they see their target approaching from a distance. A winged, reptilian creature flies over the distant mountains at dawn. He identifies the threatening beast with horns as the Wyvern they were waiting for. He asks Anne if she's ready for the fight, and she confirms she is. With a determined look, he gives the order to proceed as planned. Anne's face is firm with resolution while she claims the plan is standing. The huge Wyvern descends from the sky, hovering on the roofs of the village. A strong shot hits the head of the Wyvern but ricochets harmlessly. Alone near a well, the soldier now became the only target of the beast. He prepares his modern assault rifle in hand. The Wyvern unleashes a rabid silence, fixing his predatory gaze on him. With a powerful buzz, the creature bends its wings and begins its attack dive. The soldier stands firm, preparing for imminent attack. His eyes narrow with intense focus as he anticipates the attack of the Wyvern. He remembers the village chief's information about his predictable attack pattern. The creature slides straight towards you, exactly as you were told. He aims at the part of his body that has no protective scales. The thin, coriaceous wings of the Wyvern are their only apparent vulnerability. He opens fire, a stream of bullets flying from the barrel of his rifle. Bullets tear through the wing membrane, interrupting your flight. The wounded beast falls from the sky, falling heavily on the ground. Believing that the fight is over, he declares that the beast is on the ground. The resilient Wyvern, however, begins to move on the ground below. He strives to stand, beating his damaged wings with furious force. The powerful downward airflow lifts a huge gust of wind and debris. He is stunned by the tenacity of the creature, realizing that it can still fly. The horned head of the enraged Wyvern advances towards it with a terrifying speed. His massive head is projected forward, his mouth with fangs open to attack. Right up in the watchtower, a lone archer with his bow. Anne holds the rope of her bow while Jingoji recognizes this part of the plan. Realizing that his partner is ready, he quickly adapts his own strategy. He fires a Type 06 rifle grenade directly from his weapon. The projectile scratches the air towards the beast on the ground. It hits the Wyvern right in the snout with perfect precision. A massive explosion involves the head of the Wyvern in a firestorm. Anne shrinks, shaken by the force of the concussion of the sudden explosion. She screams Jingoji's name in alarm while observing the consequences. From a distance, she sees him standing on the smoking, headless corpse. He calmly declares the suppression of the complete dangerous threat. In a nearby watchtower, another figure regrets missing the huge explosion. Shortly thereafter, members of the Guild of Adventurers arrive at the site. A moody dwarf named Tendar complains that Jingoji didn't wait for him. Jingoji is surprised by the selfish and impatient explosion of the dwarf. Back in town, a muscular adventurer named Goliath is standing dark. Jingoji approaches him, calling his name to draw his attention. He explains that he collected some materials from the defeated Wyvern. He offers Goliath a handful of large Wyvern scales to fix his shield. Goliath's serious expression crumbles, replaced by one of pure and genuine joy. He dances in celebration while Tendar observes that the cost of repair will be separated. Another adventurer praises Anne, telling her that he heard her arrow frighten the Wyvern. He states with enthusiasm that he will get his promotion to the approved leather rank. He tells Anne he can recommend it to the guild master. Jingoji offers her own combat helmet to Anne as an early promotion gift. With gratitude, Anne accepts the helmet, thanking you for the gift. That night, Jingoji is invited to stay at Antonio's house in Sveni. Antonio warmly welcomes him, telling him to feel at home at night. Jingoji is deeply grateful for a suitable room after a constant guard service. Having exchanged for casual clothes, he is called by a maid. The maid with rabbit ears, Belle, informs politely that her bath is ready. He thanks her with genuine enthusiasm, very happy with the prospect of a hot bath. He sinks into the large, decorated tub with a sigh of satisfied relief. Relaxing in the smoking water, he expresses immense gratitude for the bathtub. It reflects on how your JSDF equipment works against the monsters of this world. He marvels at getting a second chance to protect someone. A memory of a woman called Hitomi of his past life appears in his mind. A voice calls you, taking you from your thoughts with an educated, "Excuse me." For your shock, Belle is at the door, wrapped only in a towel. She offers to wash his back, his serious expression. He is torn between a wave of excitement and the feeling that this is a bad idea. She calls him closer, but he stays frozen in the bathtub, holding the towel. She enigmatically says that her body is her equipment. She starts gently rubbing his back. Her touch gives him the creeps. He feels a sweet fragrance that is not soap and realizes his mistake. He turns to stop her, but in his hurry, he accidentally grabs his towel. Later that night, he's lying in bed, looking out the window at the stars. It reflects on the amazing events of the day, from defeating a wyvern to bathing. Totally exhausted from one day's slipstream, he closes his eyes to sleep. In a dreamy landscape of stars, a gentle voice calls for Jo-kun. A smiling woman with long dark hair appears, praising him for her efforts. In the awake world, a single tear traces a path through Jingyuji's sleeping face. The scene establishes a grand mansion decorated under a partially cloudy sky. Walking down a corridor, Jingyuji reflects that he has been staying at Antonio's house for several days. He politely greets one of Antonio's elegantly dressed wives, who repays the morning kindness. He internally observes the shocking but common practice of polygamy in this world. Jingyuji then greets Antonio's other wife with the same formal respect. The maid with rabbit ears, Belle, stutters a good nervous day for Jingyuji-sama. Jingyuji joyfully greets Bellison, apparently unaware of her continuing discomfort. An awkward silence hovers between Jingyuji and the still nervous Belle. Breaking silence, Jingyuji suggests that they should go do their chores. The goal of the day is the Guild of Production to verify the canning operation. A flashback shows Antonio overworked, asking Jingyuji to take Belle with him. The scene changes into the busy workshop of the Guild of Production. Two cans are presented, Jingyuji's original sample and the perfect midget prototype. Jingyuji marvels at the flawless replica, while Tendar explains the ingenious sealing mechanism. Tendar describes the next steps to the test, boasting that dwarves work fast. With a harsh look, Tendar reminds the young man that his work is not free. Jingyuji finds his gaze, recognizing with a serious expression he understands. With a shout of joy, Tendar jumps on Jingyuji's motorcycle, accelerating the engine. The motorcycle beats spectacularly on a brick wall, throwing debris up. Tendar sits in the rubble, quietly commenting on how difficult the bike is to maneuver. Jingyuji notes Tendar's robustness and is happy that his inventory can replicate a new motorcycle. A voice calls for Jingyuji and Belle, interrupting their observation. Anne, the archer, runs, joyfully greeting Jonathan and Bellachin. She explains that the Merchant Guild told her where to find them. With a naughty look, she tells them she has something special to show them. Radiant, she presents a new custom-made adventurer identity. Identity is revealed as being made of valuable scales and wyvern leather. Jingyuji and Belle express their astonishment, realizing that Anne was promoted to leather grudge. In a flashback, Anne proudly tells Tendar how cool her new identity is. Tendar reminds me that she hasn't paid for his work yet. A tense moment passes between the two in the flashback. Anne hesitates to ask whether she can pay him later, to which he agrees. Back to the present, Anne cares about the cost, while Jingyuji suspects the intentions of Tendar. Tendar's private thoughts reveal that he has no intention of making her pay. Belle asks Anne if she's ever shown her new identity to the director. Anne, nervous, says you're about to. Belle suggests that she and Jonathan accompany her on the visit. The group reaches the high and imposing church building. The church runs the orphanage where Belle and Anne grew up. Inside, they find their former guardian, Bispa Margaret, kneeling in prayer. Jingyuji, disturbed by her reverence, begs her to raise her head. Instead, she welcomes him, calling him the apostle of the goddess. Bispa Margaret explains that she can see both the protection and the blessing of the goddess upon him. This combination it reveals, has not been seen since the hero Kujiro-sama. She points a finger, directing their attention to something on the wall. The group looks at a large framed painting depicting a historical battle. Jingyuji immediately recognizes the medium tanks Type 89 of the old Japanese army in the painting. The painting shows the war against the demons, presenting the familiar tanks. He realizes that Kojiro's blessing from the goddess must be an inventory skill like yours. Walking around town, he wants to know more about Kojiro's story. He realizes Belle and Anne whispering nervously about him being a puzzle. To ease the tension, he suggests that they eat to celebrate Anne's promotion. Exhausted, the two girls ask if he is serious about paying the bill. Anne takes them excitedly to a teppanyaki tent, greeting the chef, Marduk. Marduk welcomes Anne and Belle. Happy to see you. The chef's eyes land in Jingyuji, his expression changing to a surprise. With a sigh of recognition, he identifies the newcomer. He exclaims that Jingyuji is the famous Explosive Joe. A viewer comments on how he looks normal despite his incredible explosive magic. Jingyuji is embarrassed by the nickname, while Marduk promises to do something good for him. Marduk presents a crackling dish of okonomiyaki and cuts the dish with skill while Belle comments on her skill with the spatula. Jingyuji wonders if Kojiro also introduced this dish into the world, and happily suggests that they start eating spatula in fists. Belle scolds distracted Jingyuji, demanding to know what's wrong. The attention of Jingyuji and Marduk is attracted by a close commotion. They see a fight started on the street. A young woman on the floor looks up with a defiant, dirt-stained face. She faces her attacker intensely. A bearded sergeant mocks his defiant attitude. His hand shakes on the fist of his sword, his patience running out. He silences his subordinate with anger, who warns him that they are in the city. The sergeant draws his blade, asking coldly what she will do now. The tip of a knife is pressed threateningly near the woman's face. Jingyuji observes the growing confrontation, his expression hardening with resolution. The sergeant raises his enormous sword, preparing to take it down. Jingyuji realizes that a simple warning shot will be too late and runs to act. A bang echoes while the sergeant is thrown back by an invisible force. Jingyuji remains firm, with the pistol pointed, while the spectators look shocked. The sergeant looks back, his face a mask of fury and astonishment. Your eye bursts into disbelief with the impossible event. A smoking hole is now visible on the blade of his fallen sword. Sergeant's subordinate identifies the assailant as dangerous and explosive Joe. Jingyuji repeats his command to drop the sword, his firm aim. Your look is cold and focused, the barrel of your unwavering pistol. The woman on the floor watches her face a mask of shock and fear. The sergeant's expression is of dark and angry challenge. The sergeant and his men retreat, dismissing the city as boring. The woman, Locke, tries to call them, but her strength fails. Jingyuji quickly decreases the distance, holding his hand to firm it. He asks if she's okay while she kneels on the floor, shaken. She stutters, unable to form words, and points a trembling finger forward. Her finger trembles as she tries to indicate the source of her distress. The tempting aroma of crackling food from a nearby tent dominates your senses. A young woman with reddish-brown hair devours her food with voracious despair. Jingyuji realizes with concern that a person was so hungry that he almost fainted. With a gentle smile, he generously offers to pay for all of her meal. The cook asks, amazed, how long since they ate. The girl with rabbit ears is deeply moved, whispering Jingyuji's name in admiration. Between the bites, they explain that they haven't eaten in 2 days since they arrived in Sveni. Having finally finished, the individual unleashes a deep sigh of total satisfaction. They bow deeply to Jingyuji, thanking him profusely for his help. They formally perform as Locke from the southern village. Locke makes a sincere promise to one day repay the Josian explosive. After they say goodbye, Locke disappears into the busy streets of the city. Jingyuji watches them leave, glad they are feeling better, but still worried. Anne, a girl in a helmet, notes that the strange situation also involves Locke. She points out that the sergeant from the previous fight was also a stranger. Jingyuji listens carefully, his serious expression while processing the new information. Anne speculates that the man was most likely a mercenary. She elaborates that there are rumors that mercenaries are flowing from Tars. Unlike Sveni, Tars is a city where the Guild of Mercenaries holds significant power. Jingyuji remembers that Locke started the confrontation. He quietly wonders what Locke's connection to the mercenaries might be. The nice cook, Marduk, happily calls Josian, interrupting his thoughts. Marduk insists on buying you a meal with extra meat. He praises Joe's brilliant and explosive magic that crushed the next floor. The word kneading arouses an idea in Jingyuji's mind as he prepares to eat. Your thoughts turn to the hot iron plate on the grill. He bites the okonomiyaki, a new plan forming in his mind. Jingiji thinks with confidence in himself that he could probably do that. The next day, he visits the orphanage with members of the Guild of the Merchant. A nun kindly tells the excited children to behave while awaiting their gift. Outside the panel, two familiar voices call for Josiane and the young man. The cook Marduk and the dwarf Tender arrive with enthusiastic nods. Tend the greeting, ready to help with the surprise Jingiji planned. In an orphanage, a man named Jingiji is with a dwarf and a cook, having prepared what was requested. The dwarf eats his snack proudly, amazed he could create the special iron plate overnight. A cook named Marduk skillfully prepares takoyaki, having acquired the ingredients in the market. An elegant elf woman experiences food, pleasantly surprised to find octopus inside her. The elf woman laughs, commenting on how amazing it is that such a horrible creature can be eaten. A young woman in a red cap eats her portion, her expression focused and serious. The nun thanks Jingiji for the delicious snack while the children happily eat their share. Antonio pulls the nun, Margaret, aside, whispering she has a little suggestion for her. He reveals their joint idea of making takoyaki exclusive business for the children of the orphanage. Antonio explains that the youth of the orphanage, like Anne and Belle, have a difficult life. He concludes that the plan will create jobs and help the local market thrive. Jingiji observes the moving scene unfolding from a distance, watching the children and the nun. He holds a single takoyaki on a stick, a gentle smile on his face. A young woman calls for Jingiji, calling his attention while he watches. A girl with rabbit ears, Belle, approaches and thanks for taking care of the orphanage. Overtaken by emotion, Belle expresses that he has been the same since they met. She continues telling Jingiji that he is not only strong but always helps others. With his hands on his hands, Belle honestly says he is a very kind person. Jingiji is visibly embarrassed by the sincere praise, a blush covering her cheeks. He stutters that he's just doing what he can to help them. After a comical moment involving a hot takoyaki, Belle offers her non-violent help. On a rough riverbank, Jingiji tells his companion, Anne, that he needs to train his equipment. A flashback shows Jingiji finding out that a new equipment has been added to his inventory. The goddess explains, through a lecture of blessing, that her killing of monsters increased her ranking. Back to the present, Jingiji examines the landscape with a pair of high-powered binoculars. He sees a big rock on the other side of the water, considering it a good target. He raises a Panzerfaust portable anti-tank gun on his shoulder, his intense expression. He fires the gun while Anne squats behind him, covering the ears of the explosion. The resulting bang scares both Jingiji and Anne, who look in shock. Anne watches the smoke dissipate, amazed that the huge rock has completely disappeared. Jingiji lowers his binoculars, commenting to himself that he should be careful when using it. With an alarmed look, Joe realizes that the rock is really moving. A huge stone golem rises, followed by a second beast-like creature. He and Anne observe, unbelievers, while the situation changes rapidly. One of the giants, Colossal, hangs over a large wooden ship with several candles. The two stone giants are shown relentlessly chasing the vessel through the water. In panic, Anne screams to Joe that the monsters are chasing the ship. They immediately return to the city of Sveni to report the imminent threat. Joe presents his smartphone, stating it contains evidence of what they witnessed. The guild master and a guard look at the strange device with amazement. A muscular adventurer comments that guardian goons should be dormant artifacts. The guild master confirms that regardless of origin, the creatures are approaching the city. He shouts an order to his subordinate, Amanda, who recognizes command. A loud bell starts ringing from a high tower, signaling an emergency. At the port, citizens scream and flee from the silhouettes that are approaching. On the city walls, long-range attackers prepare to intercept the golems. Under the direction of the guild master, Amanda quickly oversees the evacuation. As the massive gate closes, Amanda's attention is focused on the task. Joe explains his plan to intercept the goons outside the east gate. Amanda wishes Joe luck while Anne watches with a concerned expression. He reassures her, saying she'll be fine, and asks her to be an observer. With a determined look, Anne accepts her crucial role in the plan. Joe's expression is resolute as he prepares to face the enemy alone. He runs towards the gate the moment the heavy iron grid closes. Now outside, he sees that the giants have reached the docks, threatening the ship. From a balcony, Joe begins to invoke equipment from his inventory. A weak glow envelops your hands as a large weapon materializes. He expects his heavy machine gun to be enough to damage the creatures. Lifting his binoculars, he examines the scene for tactical information. He confirms that the ship is the same as the golems were chasing. His eye bursts out when he sees a new and unexpected detail in chaos. He sees the crew of the ship frantically loading the cargo into a covered wagon. A soldier called Joe examines the distant port city with his binoculars and wonders about a strange noise he hears. A massive golem made of living rock rises from agitated water, gathering a ball of brilliant energy in its open mouth. With a concussive explosion, the energy projectile hits a large sailing ship. Joe shrinks, shocked by the unexpected magical attack of the golem. He realizes for sure that the situation is not good. The soldier confirms that the creature can indeed use a powerful attack magic. Reacting instantly, Joe invokes a heavy machine gun for his position. It targets with the formidable M2 of 12.7 mm, ready to retaliate. A deafening roar bursts as he fires a burst of bullets that chip the rocky skin of the golem. Joe adjusts his aim, targeting the creature's most vulnerable head. Bullets rip out large pieces of stone, causing the golem's legs to start to crack and crumble. His lower body is shattered as he collapses into the water, defeated. Through his aim, Joe sees another golem turning his bright eye to him. It opens fire again, a stream of spent cartridges being ejected from the gun. Bullets hit the rock form of the second golem hard. Another golem raises its massive stone hand, blocking the approaching fire. Spectators on the city wall observe the incredible battle with admiration. They applaud Joe's brilliant tactic of sealing the creature's magic first. The guild master, Albert, roars that the plan is working. His companion, Anne, shouts a desperate warning for Joe to be careful. She frantically points out that the rest of the golems are now approaching. The remaining goons turn their collective attention to Joe's position. Joe confirms with bleak satisfaction that he managed to attract their fire. From his perspective, he launches a suppressive fire dam. A different golem lowers, preparing an unexpected counterattack. Your hands reach for water, looking for something to use. He lifts the massive and shattered torso of his fellow fallen from the water. The golem lifts the immense weight of its former ally above its head. He prepares to use the body of several tons as a horrifying projectile. The golem's stone face twitches in a monstrous effort appearance. With a powerful pitch, he throws the rock mass through the air. Joe faces, unbelieving, the unheard-of, macabre attack. The massive projectile flies directly to its fortified position. The golem that threw him remains standing amid the destruction that followed. On the wall, Albert shouts that the monster threw his own friend. Joe jumps off the balcony on a dive, desperate for his life. The projectile hits the building, obliterating its observation point and crashing down the street. The remaining golem advances, continuing its relentless advance. His huge shadow falls on Joe, who is now on the ground. Joe rises from the rubble, his expression of pure focus. He faces the imposing monster, his mind running for a new plan. The only bright eye of the golem is fixed on his lonely human adversary. He summons a Panzerfaust-style rocket launcher to his shoulder. With a powerful launch, he fires the rocket directly into the golem. The bullet scratches the air, pointed at the creature's head. A massive explosion involves the golem's head on impact. The creature staggers back, its body cracking with the powerful explosion. Albert applauds the wall, amazed that Joe struck a decisive blow. Anne calls Jonathan, her face a mask of deep concern. The eye of the wounded golem shines with renewed and burning malice. He fires a hail of strange stone projectiles in the form of a spoon. The magic stones rain on the city fortifications. A projectile hits a building, causing a massive explosion. On the walls, the defenders disperse while another explosion hits the vicinity. Albert protects Anne of the wreckage that falls with her own body. Anne screams in terror as the rubble rains around them. In the water, a massive explosion involves the sailing ship. Anne faces horrified, screaming for her comrades on the boat. A soldier with a ponytail watches destruction, sweating with fear. Adventurer Goliath arrives, his newly repaired shield lifted. With a determined look, he tells everyone to back off. A protective energy vortex rotates from the center of your shield. He releases a triumphant cry, having successfully repelled the assault. His companions on the wall watch his victory with immense relief. The dwarf Tendar approaches Goliath, relieved that they arrived in time. Albert celebrates the return of Goliath and his new Wyvern scale shield. Joe observes, his thoughtful and calm expression amid chaos. He turns his attention to the first golem he had taken down. The massive fractured stone body lies still on the ground. He coldly evaluates that the creature is now completely dead. He wonders aloud why the golems were so focused on that ship. A voice calls for Jingiju-sama behind him. City Guard Amanda runs toward you with a worried look. She thanks you for your help in guiding civilians to safety. Joe's expression changes to alarm when he gets a new message. He questions if the surprising message is about the South Gate. A massive and sinister shadow hangs over the rooftops of the city while two civilians run. A new armored golem, much more powerful, invaded the city. Joe speeds up the city streets on his recon bike. He curses, realizing that another Sith somehow entered the city. He's stunned by the scale of this new unexpected threat. The armored golem advances with a heavy and relentless step. He notes that he seems to be actively looking for something. Joe wonders what's different about this particular golem. He raises his binoculars to have a clearer view of his target. Through his lenses, he sees a covered wagon pulled by horses. He recognizes the driver as Albert, the master of the guild. He sees that the wagon is carrying the cargo of the ship. The golem is now relentlessly pursuing the precious cargo. Albert looks back terrified, wondering how far hell chased them. Taking a shortcut, Joe runs to intercept the armored golem. Joe speeds up to intercept the armored golem. Joe's face is determined as he accelerates to intercept the armored golem. The wheel of a motorcycle rotates quickly over the cobblestones. Joe confronts the armored golem on a narrow street. Joe prepares to invoke another Panzerfaust Roman III. He notices people hiding in a nearby building. Joe realizes he can't use Panzerfaust without risking collateral damage. Joe needs to find a way to stop the golem without damaging the city. Joe realizes terrified that Golem has stopped. Joe realizes with terror that the Golem stopped right in front of Margaret's orphanage. The Golem approaches civilians, including Belle and children, who are being threatened. The Golem's eye glows while watching the situation. A man with a scar on his face faces the situation in anger. The man in the wagon now holds Belle hostage with a sword around her neck, while her companion grabbed a child. The man proudly declares that Golem will not attack as long as they use the children as shields. The sergeant instructed his companion to put the children in the wagon. The man tightens his grip on Belle, making her tremble, and says she's going with him. With a smug smile, he warns the Golem not to move. He murmurs that, amid this chaos, they managed to acquire a good number of new stocks. Looking at the children they captured, the Golem finally moves to attack him. Joe intercepts him, advancing with a powerful vehicle with claws designed for rescue in disasters. The machine is identified as the Excavator, made by Hitachi Construction Machinery. Belle looks confused, muttering about an iron crab, before she realizes Joe's inside the machine. Close-up of one of the mechanical claws of the excavator. Joe drives the excavator from inside his glass cabin. With a determined look, Joe prepares to fight the golem with his bulldozer. The armored golem prepares to face Joe's excavator. The massive golem of dark armor is ready for battle. The golem grabs a mechanical arm, realizing he found his pair in brute power. Inside the excavator, a soldier named Jean Guji prepares his modern assault rifle for combat. The golem is approaching the glass cabin, ready for attack. From the cabin of the vehicle, it targets the imposing head with golem horns. Bullets spark harmlessly against the enchanted golem armor, no effect. Frustrated, Jean Guji recognizes that his unstable firing position is preventing a clean shot. His expression hardens as he quickly recalculates his strategy against the formidable opponent. He understands that a precise shot into the golem's bright eye is his only way to victory. Quickly guarding his rifle, Jean Guji draws a pistol, preparing for a more precise shot. The only bright eye of the golem faces back, a silent challenge for the determined soldier. Abruptly, the golem's arm falls with a heavy drum, his body freezing in place. Jean Guji exclaims surprise when the excavator clap hits the ground now empty. He looks up confused, wondering what happened and why the creature stopped fighting. The strange ethereal light begins to pulsate from the intricate golem card patterns. The glow intensifies as the magic accumulates. Like the opening of a camera, the pupil of the eye contacts, focusing on an object inside. A human silhouette becomes visible in the center of the golem's bright eye. The silhouette of a person with extended arms is in the center of the eye. Jengiji faces a drop of sweat in the temple while he whispers the name of Lokeson, his mind struggling to understand the unbelievable revelation. Trapped inside the golem, Loke looks with an expression of pain and confusion. A flashback begins, showing the same dark golem ravaging an open field. Overwhelmed by immense power, Loke's head hangs forward in defeat. The golem's head leans slightly, its purpose now frighteningly and mysteriously uncertain. Two swordsmen and a horse-drawn wagon are seen fleeing terrified of the creature. The golem lifts its massive stone fist and drops it on them. A blonde warrior is trapped, his leg trapped under the wagon turned and shattered. In the midst of chaos, a woman with long dark hair screams for everyone to run. A heavy boot hits a bearded man's jaw violently. A blonde man looks at a figure in silhouette, stuttering at the rank of sergeant. The bearded man looks up with fury, calling his attacker an idiot for his actions. With a wagon in the background, a voice screams that the slaves are escaping. From inside his excavator, Jingiji observes the horrifying scene with his rifle ready. His face is a witty shock mask while he processes the harsh reality. The narrative identifies one of the escaped captives and chained as a child. A close-up shows a hand firmly tied by a heavy iron and chain cuff. A group of captured children pile up, their faces full of terror. Two girls run barefoot through the earth, their ankles chained. A girl, Miranda, stops and looks back with a frightened expression with wide eyes. A massive golem of dark armor ominously hovers over the frightened little girl. Inside the core of the golem, a young man named Locke is seen kneeling. Locke is panicking, wondering if the girl is calling him her older brother. She runs toward the giant golem, calling for her older brother. The blade of a swordsman shines, cutting the chain that holds Miranda's ankle. Freed from the current, Miranda falls to the ground while Locke screams her name. He stops at Miranda, confidently declaring that she's the one who's looking for him. From his excavator, Jingiji recognizes the danger and prepares his weapon. He screams, trying to get the swordsman's attention he calls a magician. The swordsman faces the excavator, his sword ready, while Miranda is on the ground. With a threatening look, the swordsman demands that Jingiji throw his wand. Jingiji's expression is tense and focused while he weighs his limited options. He closes his eyes, making a decision with a look of calm resolution. Jingiji throws his submachine gun out of the open excavator cabin. The gun hits the dusty ground near the swordsman's feet. The swordsman unleashes a satisfied grunt, believing he disarmed his opponent. His expression changes to a confident smile as he diverts his attention. The massive dark metal golem strives, unable to move, while a mocking voice observes its paralysis. A young man with long hair is bowed, looking distressed and exhausted. He screams with desperate intensity, telling an invisible enemy to get away from Miranda. A bearded man with scarred face reacts with a subtle, almost imperceptible spasm. Miranda looks back terrified while the blade of a great sword swings towards her. At surprising speed, Miranda lifts her wrist in chains to intercept the descending blade. She strives against impact, her face contorted in a face of painful effort. The bearded man is stunned, his mouth opened in disbelief with his unexpected strength. From a distance, in the city square, another woman observes the horrified confrontation. A brutal move, the attacker grabs Miranda for his long dark hair. A brilliant magical secrecy suddenly materializes in the air directly in front of Miranda. The descending sword of man reaches the invisible barrier and shatters. Falling back with force, he releases a grunt of pain and shock. A soldier in modern camouflage, Joe Jingiji, observes this impossible event with wide eyes. He recognizes this as his only chance to intervene and prepares to act. The mercenary curses in frustration, staggering with the unexpected magical defense he has just faced. In a blink of an eye, Jingiji's hand closes around the fist of the broken sword. A sharp shot sounds as the pipe of a modern pistol releases smoke. Jingiji now stands firm, his pistol pointed firmly at the surprised mercenary. The mercenary looks at your hand, which is now bleeding from the fight. His expression changes to one of cautious fury as he faces this new threat. His broken sword lies in the cobblestones near a small puddle of his blood. Holding his wounded hand, he is severely ordered by Jingiji not to move. Jingiji issues his final warning, his firm aim and his unwavering voice. The mercenary can only gnash his teeth in defiance, the impasse at its peak. He curses when a security team led by Amanda enters the scene to intervene. The captured slave traffickers are arrested and taken by the city guards. These mercenaries are revealed as part of a dark guild involved in slave trade. They will be tried for their crimes by the Council of the Guild of Sveni. Elsewhere, a massive golem is carefully downloaded by a crane during city repairs. A woman puts a comforting hand on the shoulder of a younger girl while they watch. The youngest girl calls for him, his older brother Locke, who flies the golem. Locke supports her sister, Miranda, who whispers her name in relief. Fortunately, no one was killed by Locke's golem during his fury. Jingyuji expresses his relief, but notes that Locke will probably also face a trial. Seeing the brothers assembled, he feels a strong desire to help reduce Locke's sentence. He wonders, however, how Locke gained the power to move the golem. When Jingy asks Miranda about it, she can only offer a hesitant and vague sound. Amid the rubble, Jingy looks after Miranda, telling her not to move. He pulls a knife, his expression focused on the task at hand. With careful movements, he cuts the ties around her ankle, releasing her. He thanks her, recognizing her impressive display of defensive magic. He sincerely expresses his gratitude, saying he owes you for her help. Miranda, with her face darkened by her hair, listens silently to her words. She then raises her gaze, her big, expressive eyes finding his directly. A vision of another woman, Hitomi, warmly praises him, calling him Jogun. Jingy is stunned by his sudden and vivid memory, his expression of shock. A week later, a heavy wooden gate of the city is being removed from its arch. The powerful claws of a modern excavator lift the shattered gate away from the wall. Authorities observe, noting that Josie and Ironcrad will speed up restoration. The foreman shouts the order to place the new gate for installation. With a loud groan, Locke's golem pushes the new gate firmly into place. The golem is praised by a spectator for his good work in reconstruction. Jingy makes a positive sign, confident, satisfied with successful teamwork. Locke, however, seems disturbed and overwhelmed by the attention he is receiving. As a result of his trial, Locke is sentenced to probation supervised in Sven. His sentence was mild because he was trying to save his sister. In addition, a hand is placed on your head in a gesture of understanding. Within a ruined church, a nun discusses the situation with Jingy and others. She believes the young man is blessed by the goddess. Jingy concludes that this divine blessing is how Locke was able to move the golem. Locke, when questioned, seems confused and insecure of his own abilities. The nun smiles with knowledge of cause, understanding the nature of her new power. Miranda explains that her brother was just desperate and acted without realizing it. She tells Locke that he must learn to use his skills properly. Chosen as her instructor, she now works alongside him to rebuild the city. Locke asks enthusiastically where they should go to help next. Eager to work, your sister Miranda observes, surprised by her newly discovered popularity among the people. Two women on a balcony comment that the golem is actually piloted by a young man. They call him, waving his perch up the street. Miranda notes that people liked him because he is a hard-working worker. The golem gives a positive sign of confidence, causing women to faint of pleasure. Near there, children marvel at Jingy's iron crab, exclaiming it's huge. Jingy observes the scene, its thoughtful expression, and a little tired. A little girl asks another woman, Nacrian, if she thinks it's huge too. A nun announces it's time for everyone to have lunch. The little girl pulls Nacrian's sleeve, wanting her to accompany her. She asks Nacrian if she doesn't go with them to eat. Nacrian politely refuses, saying he's fine and that he'll stay behind. Jingy tells her to go to lunch, but she says she'll come later. A legend identifies the woman as Nacrian, a girl freed from slavery. A fellow comments that Nacrian has a remarkable resemblance to someone named Hitomi. The comment visibly frightens Jingy, who can only stutter a silent thanks. Later, Nacrian approaches Jingy in his excavator, offering him a cloth for thanks. The arm of the excavator moves abruptly, accidentally dropping the cloth from his hand. The cloth flies away while she apologizes and says she can get another. Nacrian watches the cloth fly, his hair blowing in the wind. Jay is visibly shaken by the incident and a strong resemblance. He closes his fists, telling himself to control his emotions. The memory of a report confirms that Hitomi died in a terrorist attack. Brought back to reality, he is grateful for a maid with rabbit ears for her hard work. A maid with prominent rabbit ears informs a soldier that they are ready for the visit. Scared of his thoughts, the soldier remembers his tour of the estate and thanks him. Belson. A massive golem announces their departure while two women wave goodbye from a balcony. The soldier reveals his plan to become the guardian of Lakan and own a house in Sven. Antoniasen, impressed by Jingy's income, has already found several properties suitable for him. From his excavator, Jingy apologizes as Belle and Nacrian prepare to leave. Jingy observes Belle, who looks with a slightly disturbed and uncertain expression. Belle seems nervous and shy, with his hand raised to his mouth in thought. Nacrian turns unexpectedly and asks Belle if she would like to join their group. They arrive at their first destination, a large house that was once an inn. Belle is totally shocked by the sudden invitation, with his mouth open by surprise, and enthusiastically suggests that they park the golem at the entrance while Lakikun watches. Jay is pleased with the Atiya's expression of approval and interest. He discovers a luxurious bathroom on the second floor, imagining himself enjoying the view while taking a shower. Belle professionally asks Nacrian his opinion on the large property they are visiting. Nacrian seems worried, with her eyes wide with a deep concern she must express. She asks Belle if she hates her, concerned about their continued association. Brilliant secrecy appears when she recalls Belle's blood and demon magic. Jingy hears this revelation, its expression of shock while processing the word demon. Nacrian looks down, his face shaded with anxiety for his confession. Belle, however, simply offers a gentle and understanding smile in response to the news. She dismisses concern, pointing out that Nacrian is also a girl, just like her. With renewed vigor, Belle insists that they cannot let the boys make all the decisions. Belle gives his professional opinion, stating that the house is too big and expensive to maintain. Belle gives his professional opinion, stating that the house is too big and expensive to maintain. Belle gathers Nacrian, saying that the two girls must present a united front against the boys. With a hopeful smile, Belle asks Nacreon if she understands and agrees with her plan. Nacreon's expression hardens with determination, a drop of sweat on his cheek. She prepares, ready to express her own opinion on the subject in question. Anne is surprised when Nacreon starts talking about the golem placement. Nacreon explains that putting the golem at the south entrance would block sunlight. Anne observes, her expression changing while considering Nacreon's logical argument. With the first property rejected, Belle happily takes the group to the next. Belle observes with a happy smile his plan to empower Nacreon working perfectly. Jingyuji reflects on Belle's amazing perception, a thoughtful smile on his face. The group saw several other properties, but the girls rejected each. The search finally leads them to the last property on the list, a modest house. The group notes that the house is much smaller than the previous ones they saw. With all the needs met, they finally decide to make this home modest. Nacreon observes that putting the golem on the north side won't bother anyone. Belle calculates the rooms and confirms that a single maid can keep the house. Some time later, a voice calls for Joe Neeson in his new home and enthusiastically announces that her brother Marduk arrived to cook for them. In a call, Jingyuji thanks someone for their help, explaining that everything is going well. He reflects that he'd initially asked only Anne for help, but more people appeared. An elf girl asks Anne about her luggage, surprised to hear from Antoniasen. Anne explains that Antonio wrote a letter recommending Jingyuji take care of her and Lakakun. Antonio also got a job contract, providing them with Belle as a maid. Jingyuji understands that Antonio guided them to form a supportive family and found. Later, he discovered that the house they chose originally belonged to Antoniasen himself. Jingyuji realizes that he was overtaken because Antonio knew he would refuse a direct offer. He reflects that Antonio has been taking care of him since the day before. In a flashback, Jingyuji thanks Antonio for providing the Lakakun guild record. An elf woman, Muriel, thanks Antonio for his adjustments before saying goodbye. Antonio agrees, noting that Lakakun's power is well suited for an adventure. Jingyuji then addresses the most difficult subject in the case of Nacreon. He recognizes the complication of her being of the demonic tribe. Antonio explains that the deeply rooted prejudice of the last war makes it difficult for her. Jingyuji hears with a dark expression, understanding the gravity of the situation. Antonio's mood improves when he reveals that he has already found a solution. He will arrange her record, citing an earlier case of an adventurer of the demonic tribe. Back to the present, Nacreon offers Jingyuji a freshly cooked takoyaki tray. Jingyuji accepts the food, telling him not to contain himself and thanking him. Nacreon expresses his gratitude, saying that the house will be great thanks to your help. She offers you a piece of takoyaki as a personal thank you, not just for the house. Troubled, Jingyuji discards the gesture and tells her to get right to the point. Composing, he turns to Nacreon to ask a serious question. He asks her if she would like to become an adventurer, her eyes spreading. Jingyuji continues, extending his invitation to the rest of the group as well. Belle is shocked, a piece of frozen takoyaki on his spit before her, and smiles brilliantly, a takoyaki ready while listening to the proposal. Lakakun also looks with interest, a piece of food on her own skewer. Their training begins with a rough trip and complaints that they are not going anywhere. Jingyuji says it's best to start training away from people. The women in the back, not used to the trip, beg him to slow down. Jingyuji finds a suitable sterile clearing and declares it a good place to stop. With a dry command, he orders his new recruits to board the vehicle. All 4 women, now in camouflage, line up, ready for the first exercise. Jingyuji formally announces the beginning of the Jedi field exercise of the Sveni Adventurers Guild. The scene goes back to the night before in a rustic tavern. Jingyuji enthusiastically lifts a mug, proposing a toast to his new party, Jedi. His joy is received with a dark silence from his new party companions. A roast bird is on the table, a symbol of its recent conquests. Nacreon notes that its highest ranking will mean more difficult and dangerous tasks. Muriel recognizes his individual skills, but insists that it is not enough to match Jingyuji. She remembers Anne's incredible ability, having shot a wyvern in the eye. Muriel also points to Nacreon's powerful defensive magic, a brilliant secrecy illustrating the point. She then mentions Lakakun's ability to control a massive and powerful golem. Jingyuji, alien to his worries, happily enjoys the food the Bells have cooked for him. Muriel concludes that his current skills are not enough, referring to the magical wall of an adventurer. She insists they can't work with a metal ranker like him without powerful magic. Nacreon agrees, Admitting he can only use defensive magic, twisting his hair nervously, she confesses that because of this limitation, she was considered a failure by her tribe. Lakakun, with her mouth full, tries to add that she is useless without her golem. Jingiji and Belle stand silently from the table, the rabbit ears contracting. Belle gives her ears a small flap, drawing Jingiji's attention. Outside, Jingiji caresses his chin, making a firm decision about their training. He asks everyone to keep secret what he's about to share. In the present, he definitely carries a new charger in his assault rifle. With a look of intense focus, a soldier of cloaking aim with his rifle. The charger fits in place, signaling the beginning of his serious training. The powerful shot hits a wooden target, hitting the target in full. In Jitai's temporary shooting range, a group of camouflage girls observes with admiration. A girl asks her leader, Jo Neeson, if her explosive magic is actually an item. Holding his rifle, he confirms that it is a tool that anyone can use with his permission. The squad listens attentively while he explains their desire for them to learn to protect themselves. He affirms his belief that, above all, they will use this power to protect life. His instruction begins by telling a curly-haired girl to put the rifle butt against her shoulder. He continues, advising her to shift her weight slightly to the left foot. Kneeling behind her, he adjusts his posture to help her endure the retreat. With a firm click, she follows her command and unlocks the rifle's safety. He gives the final orders so that she gently squeezes the trigger. The rifle explodes with a loud bang when a cartridge is ejected. The bullet scratches toward the target. Its true and straight trajectory. It hits the wood target with a dry and satisfying base. The girl stutters unbelievably, asking if she just used explosive magic. An exploded diagram explains the rifle mechanics, showing how gunpowder drives the bullet. He points out that, as an arch, this tool requires careful handling to avoid accidents. Now full of determination, she agrees and prepares to try the blast mode. A quick 3-shot blast rips the wooden target with immense force. Watching through binoculars, Jo hears her scream that she hit the target. The target shows 3 well-grouped holes, confirming their impressive accuracy. She realizes with enthusiasm that she can now fight the power of her leader. A dark-haired girl, Naxon, is encouraged to try the blast mode next. A third girl, Lakakun, looks with a look of intense concentration. With a scream of fire, a bullet accelerates towards another target with incredible speed. Bullets raise dirt and splinters as they reach target support. A close-up shows a bullet impacting the edge of the circular target. Naxon looks unbelieving, whispering that she really did. She marvels at the impossible fact that Jiz just used attack magic. Jo reminds a stunned Naxon to pick up security now that it's over, and encourages Lakakun, whose turn is next, to do his best. A maid with rabbit ears, Belson, is also taught to shoot with a pistol. The high reports leave her sensitive ears buzzing, and she decides to find earplugs. After using all the ammo, Jo announces it's time for a break. The group gathers around a portable table for a well-deserved meal. Belson congratulates everyone, while Lakakun admits he was tense, and Naxon rubs his sore shoulder and identifies with enthusiasm the meal as Sveni's famous canned food. Naxon is amazed that food can be consumed simply by heating it up. Jo wonders if Naxon is hesitant to try the unknown dish. Lakakun, however, eats with taste, taking a big bite. She chews with a thoughtful expression, savoring the new flavor. An expression of pure happiness spreads across her face as she enjoys the meal. She tells Joseon with enthusiasm how incredibly delicious the food is. Naxon hesitantly raises a piece of food on his fork, still uncertain. She takes the bite to her lips, her hesitant expression. Chewing slowly, its expression is indecipherable while processing the flavor. When Lakakun asks for his leftovers, Naxon firmly refuses to share. Naxon asks Jo for his assessment of his shooting, and he praises her. He admits to being surprised at his 90% hit rate after she get the hang of it. He notes that his ability is extraordinary, even considering his experience as archer. Naxon is impressed that he can see so much detail with his binoculars. He reflects that with his exceptional abilities, she may be something else. Her thinking is interrupted by Belson's cry when she drops her dishes. A large translucent sludge appeared near the group, scaring them. Naxon suggests they hunt the mud to earn an extra income for his group. She explains that the core in the middle is a valuable magical crystal. A bubble of thought explains that the lemons are weak and slow, making them easy money. Jo agrees to make the mud hunt their afternoon training exercise. In a marshy field, a group of lemons swings and swings in the grass. A soldier named Naxon screams that they cornered the limousines. An observer confirms that the limos are in Naxon's line of fire. Bullets tear 2 of the gelatinous creatures with precision. One of the slugs hit convulses, his body starting to dissolve. The creature melts into a puddle, leaving its shiny core behind. An explanation notes that damaging the core causes the sludge to evaporate. The commander requests a ceasefire and has Belsen give the signal. Noxon notes that the shooting is over, his serious expression. A soldier makes a positive sign while Belsen shakes his little flag. Lakakun is instructed to go and collect valuable crystals. He and a dog run excitedly to collect the spoils of their hunt. Anna is praised for her incredible shot at so many moving targets. She realizes with pleasure that what they raised is much more than change. Belsen reminds Anna to rinse the crystals thoroughly before bagging them. The corrosive fluid of the smoky sludge when the water is poured over the pile. Anna discards Belsen's concerns as she starts rinsing the crystals. Now Jingeji admits he was excited, since hunting so many lemons usually melts his weapons. Anna estimates that her earnings will be enough to feed her group for a month. Anna observes her expression of silent pride for her accomplishment. She smiles, glad she was useful to everyone in her group. She gets a bottle of soda as a reward for her hard work. Anna observes her expression of silent pride for her accomplishment. She smiles, glad she was useful to everyone in her group. The refreshing soda boils when the cap is removed from the bottle. After taking a big sip, Anna releases a loud, uninhibited burp. She apologizes profusely while Jingeji reassures her, saying that this happens to everyone. Lakakun happily compares the drink to the sludge fluid, gaining a Naxon reprimand. With the mission completed, the commander decides it's time to return to the city. As the team gathers near their armored vehicle, Anna gets a proud look. Jingeji suddenly realizes Anna is missing from the group. Anna shoots alone, a new and much bigger target in her sight. She exclaims enthusiastically as seeing a truly huge mud. Deciding to head her down before they go home, she approaches the massive creature. Jingeji yells at her not to act alone and runs to stop her reckless load. Anna, without shaking, moves forward to face the colossal mud alone. A single bullet scratches the air, heading straight for a large gelatinous target. The projectile sneezes ineffectively, creating a small ripple on the thick skin of the sludge. Anna, a cloaking soldier, expresses her shock that her shooting had no effect. The body of the giant slime shakes and waves with a threatening swing. Hanging over the soldier, the immense size of the creature fills the picture with dread. Realizing her mistake, Anna releases a shamed ops when danger becomes imminent. With a determined expression, she turns around and starts a desperate attempt to escape. Noxon suddenly drops Anne, making her rifle fly as they roll on the ground. With intense focus, Noxon screams, activating his defensive magic at the last second. The massive slime dismays, swallowing the two soldiers inside his translucent body. Their commander, Jingeji, runs forward, shouting their names in horror. He observes with gloomy expression, realizing the immediate danger is inside the mud. Anne's assault rifle begins to smoke and dissolve quickly. The corrosive fluid continues to corrode the weapon, melting it completely. Jingeji expresses his shock by witnessing the rifle dissolving outside. He understands the urgency, realizing he needs to get them out quickly. Aiming, he fires his own rifle at the colossal and trembling creature. Bullets sneeze into the mud's body, creating ripples, but without causing real damage. Trapped inside her magic bubble, Anne and Noxon scream at the violent shock waves. Jingeji realizes that his rifle's firepower is too weak to penetrate the creature's core. He concludes that he must use something with significant mass to reach the vital organ inside the bubble and watches her rifle melt completely into the acidic fluid. With a desperate look, she asks Noxon how long defensive magic can last. Noxon grinds his teeth, striding to maintain the protection spell with all its strength. She warns Anne not to speak, because her focus is breaking and the spell is about to fail. A mechanical claw summoned from a magic circle suddenly bumps into the mud. The two soldiers arrested scream by surprise at the unexpected intervention. The iron crab excavator emerges, its powerful claw dipped deep in the monster. From the cabin, Jingeji declares his intention to rescue them before the machine melts. The excavator arm, already dissolving, reaches the sludge core. With a triumphant thought, Yuji confirms that he has his target in sight. On the floor, Locke and Bell scream a warning while the slime swallows the whole machine. Inside the cabin, Yuji beats his foot on a pedal, fighting against the creature's attraction. The whole iron crowd is now submerged, a dark silhouette inside the giant's sludge. Outside, the team watches horrified while the bubble that protects the girls weakens and screams for him. Jonathan, fearing the worst for her commander, the excavator is now completely involved. Suspended within the trembling mass, Jingeji's expression is of intense focus from inside the dissolving cabin. The two powerful claws of the excavator are now visibly smoking and eating. With one last determined push, a claw closes in the spherical core of the sludge. The powerful forceps grab the core firmly, ready to strike the final blow. Jingeji declares, "I got you," with a look of gloomy satisfaction on his face. He screams at the core to break. Applying overwhelming pressure with the mechanical claw, the core begins to crack under the immense force of the clamp. The sludge erupts into a massive geyser, its body dissolving violently. Jing Yiji emerges from the wreckage of the cabin, his uniform spattered with goo. He claims he's glad no one got hurt in the ordeal. He lands on the ground, expressing his relief for having been close, and holds the crystal of the giant slime, amazed at its strength and size. She asks Spell how much food a crystal this size could buy for them. Locke, with wide eyes, declares that this is a treasure, something much more valuable. He explains that the white color of the crystal means that it possesses a powerful healing magic. He elaborates that the largest and purest crystals are rare items not sold on the market. Naxon casts an inexpressive look. Surprised Locke knew anything but food. Miranda suggests that if it's a healing item, they should entrust it to the church. Anne agrees, proposing that they also donate their profits from the hunt of the day. Jin Yuji affirms the plan and tells everyone to prepare to leave. As he steps away, with the treasure in his hand, a dark claw advances upon him. He turns his head, reacting to the sudden and invisible threat from behind. Locke screams Jin Yuji's name, pushing him hard out of the way. The dark claw involves Locke, who receives full force from the attack. A statue of a goddess remains silently within the stone arches of a church. Inside the church, a lonely nun kneels in prayer before the altar. A nun, Bispa Margaret, looks with alarm. Jingyiji comes in suddenly, carrying the wounded Locke, scaring the praying nun. He looks at her with a desperate expression, begging for your help. Next to Locke's bed, Jingyiji explains that Locke protected him from mud. Miranda cries, insisting that her brother stay strong while he murmurs that he is cold. Jingyiji notes with dark certainty that Locke has severe burns and significant loss of skin. He realizes with a sense of discouragement that a standard first aid kit will be useless. He turns to Bispa Margaret, insisting that they need healing magic immediately. He presents the treasure, a great white crystal, asking if his power can be used to heal it. The bishop confirms that it is possible to heal the wound with the power of treasure. However, her expression turns into deep sadness as she closes her eyes. She confesses to the stunned group that she cannot extract the power from the treasure. Anne is shocked when the bishop explains that very few in Sven have enough magic to use it. Miranda is devastated, whispering that this tragedy happened right after their reunion. Dominated by pain, she screams, begging her brother not to die and not leave her alone. As she screams, the treasure in Anne's hands begins to pulsate with a bright light. The bishop's eyes spread, realizing that the treasure is resonating with Miranda's appeal. She understands what's happening, with a look of admiration on her face. The bishop tells Miranda that the goddess has just given her a great power of healing. She puts a comforting hand on Miranda's shoulder, telling her to focus. The bishop instructs the girl to do what she says, her voice now firm and guiding. Miranda, in tears, agrees with a determined yes. The bishop declares her belief that Miranda can now feel the power of the goddess through the treasure. Miranda's hands glow with a soft and warm light as she prepares to heal. Tears run down her face as she looks at her brother with deep concern. Locke, weak but conscious, looks at your sister, whispering her name. The treasure held by Anne radiates with a pure, almost blinding white light. The narrative explains that while Miranda was holding hands on him, a miracle occurred. Locke's severe wounds were seen healing quickly before his eyes. Jingui confirms that Miranda's miraculous healing magic saved Locke's life. The narrator explains that the effort was so physically exhausting that both brothers had to recover for weeks. A noble woman with tattooed arms comments with her knight Saunders on how difficult the ordeal must have been. With a bright smile, Jingui invites them to see the happy result for themselves. On a street near the city, the now healthy brothers, Locke and Miranda, are seen walking together. Miranda scolds her brother for eating too much, while he happily suggests the next meal. The noble woman expresses her deep joy, her eyes shining as she watches them. Her knight Saunders gently wipes her tears, reminding her that they are falling into her dress. Recomposing, she thanks Jingui for sharing such a wonderful story of love and compassion. Saunders observes with a serious expression, clearly moved by the emotional weight of the tale. In an outdoor cafe, the lady comments that listening to the story was worth the trip to the city center. A young woman whispers urgently to Jingui, who is busy enjoying a takoyaki snack. She expresses her regret, thinking it was a bad idea to invite a noble woman to a place like that. With a charming wink, Lady Elizabeth assures them she's having a great time. A legend identifies the noble woman as Elizabeth San of the Citadel of Tars, while her knight Saunders reminds her to be careful. Jingui remembers meeting her that same morning during a business meeting with her father. She had expressed her desire to hear more about the activities of her unit, suggesting that they talk during tea. Misunderstanding his intentions, Jingui enthusiastically proposed a great commemorative meal for all. He had gladly offered to take her to his favorite place to his surprise. His companions realize with growing horror that he has lost the signs of a proposal. Lady Elizabeth's thoughtful profile reveals that her true intentions are still a mystery. Locke and Miranda wave from afar, inviting Jingui to eat with them. Suddenly, a man named Marta hits Jingui's shoulder, calling his attention. The chef proudly offers Jingui a taste of a new dish that he has just perfected. A beautiful bowl of Thai noodles, Sveni style, is presented with a triumphant flower. Marduk explains the innovative concept of putting pasta in the soup for his curious friends. He reveals that his love for street food from Southeast Asia was the inspiration of the dish. The chef then offers a bowl for Lady Elizabeth, who accepts it with an educated thank you. She sits in front of the smoking bowl, a confident smile on her face as she prepares to eat. Her smile fades slightly when she stops, her expression becoming uncertain. His eyes suddenly burst in shock with the sound coming from his side. Hiding behind the fan, she asks Saunders if he knows how to eat. Jingui and his friend are savoring their pasta with noisy and unbridled enthusiasm. Lady Elizabeth and her knight Saunders look with total unbelief at the noisy display. A drop of lost broth flies through the air, thrown by the noodles being drenched. Saunders shouts a warning, jumping to protect his lady from more spatter. 2 more drops of broth sneeze into the pure white fabric of his mantle. He looks down, horrified, at the dark spots that stain his spotless cloak. By grabbing his angry collar, he turns to confront the uncivilized diners. He furiously demands to know how dare they eat in such a way. Lady Elizabeth gently soothes her knight, assuring him that everything is all right. She realizes that there is simply a common way to eat commoner food. With a look of fierce determination, she declares that manners are still manners. She announces her intention to sip the pasta, but elegantly. Men watch with intense and gasping anticipation as she prepares for her attempt. Saunders swallows in dry, nervous, his absolute focus while watching his lady. Jinguji and Marduk also watch closely, waiting to see what will happen. She raises a lot of noodles with her chopsticks, a glare of challenge in her eyes. Man realizes holding their breath, that she's really about to simmer. With perfect balance, it gently takes the noodles to the lips, gently inspiring. They observe that she's cleaning the broth to reduce the amount of spatter. It masterfully controls the movement of pasta while savoring it elegantly. With a charming wink, she declares the delicious meal and her dress completely spotless. Saunders exclaims her pride in her lady, a compliment she discards as exaggeration. Another lost splash from the other table flies through the air, breaking the moment. A narrator notes that Marduk later began distributing aprons to his clients. A voice suddenly calls Jinguji, interrupting his meal. A severe-looking dwarf, Tenderson, approaches with a serious expression. Tenderson asks Jinguji to join him, insisting that he listen to him for a moment. Jinguji raises the eyes of his meal, confused by the sudden and serious request of the dwarf. Abruptly, Saunders grabs Lady Elizabeth, screaming about a coup date as he pushes her away. On a high castle wall, the warrior Goliath calls his comrade Saunders. He asks Saunders about the welfare of his princess after the sudden news. Goliath waits for an answer with his arms crossed and the expression dark. Saunders reports that although she is calm now, her family remains trapped in her mansion. He squeezes his head in anguish, cursing his impotence to help them. In a fit of frustration, he beats with a gloved fist in the middle of stone. Goliath tells him to have faith, mentioning he's acquired a new shield. He urges his friend to believe in Joe and his Gatai unit. Inside a modern armored vehicle, Joe asks his companion, Naxon, a map of Tars. He severely reminds his exclusively feminine unity of being clear about his current mission. The Sveni Emergency Assembly meets to discuss the ongoing crisis. A senior officer declares that the council's decision is unanimous. The breaking news of the coup in Tars was first reported by Gilbert's son via carrier pigeon. The coup was supposedly led by the Guild of Mercenaries in the absence of Lord Bunker. Lord Bunker's loyal forces still resist unbridled attacks and looting. The free trade city of Sveni declares that it will not tolerate the seizure of power. A hammer hits, officially requesting backup. In the headquarters of the allied forces of Guild Sveni, a commander informs the assembled troops. He points to a detailed map of the fortress that was provided by Lord Bunker. The map reveals that Tars is protected by complex pentagonal and star-shaped walls. The commander explains that a rapid reconnaissance mission is crucial for a successful encounter. He formally instructs Jaitai, with Joe in charge, to conduct the reconnaissance operation. He then asks Joe if he has a way to investigate what's going on behind the walls. Joe reveals a multifunctional broadband radio for instant and long-range communication. A man with a bird-like appearance marvels at the interesting piece of technology that Joe produced. A man called Antonio-san approaches, asking for a particular word with Jingiji-sama. Antonio, leaning on his cane, looks at Jingiji with a serious expression. He reveals that Toru's carrier pigeon was sent by his daughter, Marion. He explains that his request is not from the council, but a personal appeal to Jaitai. Mastered by emotion, Antonio begs Jingiji to save his daughter. Jingiji's expression is serious as he absorbs the sincere call to save his family. Inside the vehicle, Joe realizes his new goal, an immediate rescue and evacuation. A soldier asks his sick Miranda if she's okay with the rough ride. Miranda squeezes her mouth, thinking that her healing power can finally be useful on this mission. From a high wall, a massive armored golem stands guard while a soldier relays orders to follow Josian. The driver, Joe, confirms that their mission is both reconnaissance and rescue, while a blonde woman apologizes for her brother's loud voice. On the passenger seat, the long-haired Naxon stoic looks out the window. Miranda, feeling bad about the rough ride, she covers her mouth with her hand. She thinks to herself that now she understands why her brother Locke was so worried about her. A memory of hands caught in heavy chains blinks while a voice asks if they remember the methods of mercenaries. A curly-haired woman turns to Naxon, telling him she can still give up the mission if she wants. Naxon's expression is firm in saying he hasn't forgotten what happened. Closing her gloved fist, she declares that her past is the very reason why she should go. Miranda, inspired, finds her own determination, promising to help anyone else who is suffering. Looking back, Naxon recognizes Miranda's statement with a silent and understanding look. She turns back to the road ahead, quietly accepting Miranda's decision. The driver, Joe, looks with concern, saying Naxon's name gently. A woman with rabbit ears, Belle, sees Miranda feeling better and getting ready to open a snack. She presents a large package of rice cookies to the group. Another girl explains that the desire to protect people is the same feeling that moves her leader, Joe Neeson. Belle proposes an improvised welcome party for Miranda, offering her a bottle of soda. Oppressed by the gesture, Miranda accepts the bottle with a stuttering thank you. After her first sip, she is surprised by the effervescent and bubbling taste. Another bottle of dark soda is offered to Naxon in the front seat. A blonde woman next to her holds the bottle, her expression of displeasure. She clearly claims she doesn't like that particular drink. Belle, holding a rice cookie, expresses her own curiosity about the roasted snack. The armored vehicle accelerates through the forest while Belle appreciates the crispy texture of the cookie. The armored car continues its journey down a dirt road at night. The smooth balance of the vehicle packed the girls in the back in a quiet sleep. A dark-skinned woman in the back asks Naxon if she likes the snack. In the front passenger seat, Naxon eats a rice cookie in silence. Joe watches from the driver's seat that Naxon has been eating rice cookies over and over. Stopping in the middle of the bite, Naxon looks at the cookie with a thoughtful expression. A warm memory of her mother with horns making a similar snack for her as a child appears. Joe says he understands the comforting feeling of a taste of home while Naxon continues to eat. He comments that her hometown must have a lot of salty, canned food. His observation leads him to ask Naxon if he reminds him of anyone from his hometown. Under the starry night sky, Naxon confirms shores that he had noticed. Joe remembers that her face always looked so sad every time I saw him. A memory of a girl who looks like Miranda confirms that someone she knew is gone. Joe keeps a serious expression while driving, processing this new information. Naxon looks at Miranda's sleeping reflection in the dark window. She confesses she'd like to have been there to protect her lost friend. Her face is engraved with regret while she holds the rice biscuit half-eaten. She quietly accepts the painful reality of her loss. Her gloomy expression. Naxon apologizes if he looked at Joe strangely, explaining that he reminds her of his friend. Joe offers a raw, naked truth, stating that you cannot bring back what has been lost. By taking a determined bite on his cookie, Naxon's sadness turns into determination. She declares that they must do their best to help their current target, Marion's son. On the back, one of the girls now awake asks for a spicy cookie. The imposing fortified town of Tars is revealed, its castle perched on a hill at night. A soldier protects her eyes, asking Naxon if she can see anything. From the top of a cliff, Anne reports seeing guards, but nothing more remarkable. A girl with a pussy fists her expression of concern. She wonders aloud how Joe Neeson plans to take a look inside the fortress. Joe points up, instructing his team to look up. The scene changes to the outside of a large building, identified as Marion's house. Inside, a maid named Marion looks out the window with a worried expression. She asks Mr. Gilbert if the giant really will come to your aid. Mr. Gilbert confirms with tired admiration that Joe is quite a guy. Marion then asks if the magician known as Explosive Joe is really so good. Suddenly, the drone appears in his window, scaring them both. A close-up shows the drone camera and a radio trapped in its lower part. The radio is identified as a portable amateur radio, a personal belonging of Joe. Mr. Gilbert says excitedly to Marion that it is exactly as he said it would be. Using the radio, he explains the terrible situation in tows for the rescuers. Joe's voice confirms that he understands the gravity of the situation. He calls his team on the radio, declaring they will act immediately without waiting for dawn. Joe's expression is dark and determined as he speaks on the radio. He asks Knack if she copied the new information, seeking confirmation. Joe listens to the radio response is serious, focused expression. Next to the vehicle, Knack confirms and says he'll assemble the team. Knack closes communication with a dry over. Gathered around a map in the vehicle, Joe cancels the original secret plan. A flashback shows Marion's son is weak and has a high fever. Joe declares that the situation is urgent, requiring a frontal attack on the castle wall. A soldier asks Miranda if her healing power can also cure diseases. She confirms she can. A curly-haired girl protests the change of plans while Joe tells everyone to get ready. She questions the wisdom of going directly through the castle wall. She expresses her concern for collateral damage if the city's inhabitants are being held hostage. Naxon Coley claims there's no one to worry about. Joe hits his fist on the map, his face filled with fair rage. He explains that those who were captured were not treated as prisoners of war. Girls hear in shock, understanding the sinister implication of their words. A lonely figure with a guitar sits on the castle wall, playing a song. On the wall, there are mercenaries, one telling the other not to rush. A couple of dice are on the ground while a mercenary comments about your good luck. In a storage room, two mercenaries share their loot. A blonde mercenary inspects a beautiful dress, noticing its good quality and pleasant aroma. He reveals that it was used by a young woman when he caught it, planning to take it next. The mercenaries are suddenly frightened by a sound from above. Looking up at the city walls, they wonder what the strange light in the sky is. A trail of bright light descends from the night sky, confused with a shooting star. Two magicians watch horrified as the projectile hits a stone watchtower with devastating force. The top half of the tower shatters, its massive structure crumbling under powerful impact. Magicians retreat in fear, protecting themselves while huge pieces of stone rain on them. In a nearby wall, two guards react to deafening noise when a second projectile hits. The command to cease fire is heard, for the upper wall has become a smoking mess and ruins. From dust and chaos, two modern armored vehicles emerge, advancing to the besieged city. Vehicles are identified as a Type 16 MCVE and a Type 96 APC, manned by a fully female unit. Type 16 runs down a main street, its commander, Joe, asking for directions to the target. Inside, a soldier with rabbit ears named Belle screams, frightened by chaotic driving. She continues to express her alarm as the vehicle navigates the dangerous and narrow streets. From the rubble, mercenary archers promise to prevent the steel chariot from escaping its reach. On the radio, Joe calms down his crew, saying that primitive weapons are useless against his armor. He orders Belle to carry grenades with the intention of completely crushing the enemy's will to fight. On a stone bridge, a group of magicians regroup, recognizing that their current tactics are failing. Your leader, concerned with damaging the looting inside, elaborates a more destructive attack plan. He lifts his staff, gathering powerful magic energy for a powerful flame bomb spell. Your goal is to take down an adjacent tower over the armored vehicle below. A projectile is launched from the main MCV cannon, flying toward the wizard's position. The projectile explodes against the bridge, and the ceasefire order is heard once again. Joe reflects that the team's extra training while his comrade recovered is worth it. The team's coordinated efforts allow them to proceed with the attack with confidence and precision. Despite the counterattack, the wizard's spell still makes the tower begin to collapse. Belle screams a warning about the wreckage that falls, but Joe, determined, declares that they will cross. The MCV advances, a blur of movement going directly to the path of destruction, with the team trusting that the Jaitai can protect everyone. A young woman puts her faith in the Jaitai, believing that they can protect everyone. She whispers words of comfort, trying to calm her crying baby, wrapped in cloths. The woman, Marion, holds her son tight, her face a mask of fear and hope. A maid gently insists that her distressed mother rests, but Marion refuses, too eager to stop. An older man, Mr. Gilbert, observes with great concern that they are both on the edge. He tries frantically to contact Joe in his walkie-talkie, is shaking hands of urgency. Leaning over a balcony parapet, he curses, worry he won't get an answer since the tower collapsed. The maid follows him out, his desperate expression while begging for his help. A voice announces by walkie-talkie that they arrived to fetch Mr. Gilbert. With a thundering bang, a modern armored combat vehicle crosses a stone wall. From the vehicle, Joe apologizes for the delay, explaining that he had to clear the way. Leaving the vehicle in haste, Joe urgently asks about the condition of a baby. A maid emerges from a building, supporting the exhausted Lady Marian, who holds a baby. The maid looks with admiration, recognizing the legendary Jaitai. Joe orders a soldier named Nakrian to prepare the larger vehicle for rescue. He introduces Lady Marian as Jo Jingiji, the companion his father sent. Joe directs her to the steel carriage where she and her baby will be evacuated. The maid, full of relief and determination, encourages a grateful Marian to move on. From a high roof, two mysterious and agile figures observe the scene below. One of the figures, a woman with a long ponytail, asks her maid if she saw him. The other wonders aloud if the man, Jo Jingiji, is the second coming of a hero. Joe gives the order for Nakrian to start guiding people to APC Type 96. Nakrian moves towards the civilians, his serious expression as he tells them to hurry. A close-up shows Nakrian's intense, focused look, feeling that something is wrong. The maid stands between Nakrian and the exhausted Lady Marian. With a challenging look, the maid questions Nakrian's aggressive and sudden approach. Nakrian leans over and asks a surprising question. Is there a demon among them? In an instant, two rays of energy bust through Nakrian's head, forcing her to dodge. From a distance, Joe watches the attack and identifies it as magic. He quickly raises his binoculars to have a clearer view of the enemy's position. An enemy wizard on a high wall curses his lost shot and orders the roof to be knocked over them. Joe realizes with an alarm surge that his pursuers have already reached them. A soldier called Miranda urgently tells Nakrian they need to hurry. Miranda calls the name Nakrian again, her expression full of growing concern. Nakrian takes over, ordering Miranda to drive Marian and the others into the vehicle. Nakrian runs towards his own vehicle, ready to carry his precious cargo to safety. The two armored vehicles run through the narrow streets of Tars. Explosions burst through the city's rooftops as the battle intensifies around them. A massive section of a building begins to drop directly towards the fleeing vehicles. Inside the armored vehicle, frightened civilians pile up as the battle unfolds outside. The streets of the city are full of hostile mercenary forces. Two armored vehicles sail through dangerous streets while a voice notes the urgent need to escape. A soldier called Joe notes that the morale of the enemy remains high despite its disadvantage. Joe contacts a man named Gilbert on the radio asking how the enemy is communicating so effectively. Armored personnel transport accelerates as Joe questions the enemy's chain of command. Gilbert apologizes, explaining that the coup interrupted his investigation into the slave trade. A dark image shows hooded figures leading chained children, representing the Dark Guild. A hooded figure holding chains, symbolizing Gilbert's belief that the Dark Guild instigated the coup. A ninja-like agent is shown running through the roofs, unable to find a financial connection. A winged agent watches the vehicles, feeling people with special powers that she cannot identify. A maid expresses her indignation at violence in a city of women and children. Nakrian, at the wheel, is visibly disturbed by the maid's speculation about demons. The woman holding a baby, Marian, looks with concern, feeling Nakrian's anguish. A close-up in Nakrian's eye in the rearview mirror shows his internal conflict. Miranda, your face is still full of concern for the disturbed driver. Miranda's face is now marked by a mixture of sadness and fierce protection. Nakrian's face is shaded, his expression hardening with a dark resolution. His expression becomes calm and focused. His internal conflict apparently resolves. An unwanted memory of an invitation to a party goes through your mind. Nakrian closes his eyes, moving away the painful memory with a silent sigh. Her eyes open abruptly, her resolution now absolute as she focuses on the mission. She looks aside, her eyes now full of steel determination. Joe tries to yes the civilians, telling them not to worry about the enemy. Nakrian takes a solemn vow that the Jaitai will protect everyone. She contacts Joe on the radio, announcing he has an idea for their escape. On a balcony, enemy magicians sight the approaching vehicle, ready to attack. A smiling man with a crystal staff commands his companion not to let his targets escape. A second smaller military vehicle joins him, forming a formidable train. From a high vantage point, an enemy wizard exclaims that the vehicles have separated. He orders his comrades to aim for the front vehicle with a prominent cannon. Inside the second vehicle, they ask the Nakrian driver if she can drive without lights. She closes her eyes, concentrating her thoughts on her own innate abilities. Her eye opens suddenly, revealing a brilliant demon pupil as she prepares. She thinks even in the dark she can see the way forward. the world becomes perfectly clear to her. Every detail of the city lit up. The transport of armored personnel flies through the air, crossing a destroyed bridge. On a high wall, two ninja-like hooded figures observe the daring escape. They wonder that the GA-Tai escaped such a deadly and impossible situation. The vehicles accelerate toward a treed rendezvous point outside the city. They arrive at the designated meeting area, stopping abruptly on the road. A soldier, Joe, goes out and asks his comrade if anyone is following them. Joe orders Miranda to start treating the sick baby immediately. A maid, Marion, protests, insisting that they need a hospital in the city. Her words die in her throat when she sees the impossible sight before her. Inside the APC, Miranda begins channeling a powerful healing magic. A bright, warm light emanates from Miranda's hands on the baby. Marion faces marvel, whispering about the powerful healing magic. The sick baby, who was apathetic, begins to breathe more easily under the glow. The baby sleeps a quiet sleep, his health miraculously restored. Nacreen observes the scene, a silent and indecipherable expression on his face. She turns around, her face still composed, but showing a hint of tension. Miranda, exhausted but relieved, offers a silent word of thanks. The baby's mother, Marion, smiles, holding her son now healthy, with tears in her eyes. Marion offers her deep and sincere gratitude. Nacreen looks, his expression confused and awkward, unaccustomed to compliments. Marion suddenly runs forward, her arms stretched out to embrace Nacreen. The sudden movement frightens Nacreen, who retreats in alarm. She whispers to herself, begging to hold on just a little longer. His human disguise breaks, revealing demonic skin and horns underneath. Her eyes burst out in shock when she realizes what's happening to her. Jinkoji points his weapon, his mind identifying the new threat, a demon. The face of the demon is revealed, with a sharp horn and a single big eye. His hand with claws gently lifts the lace of his maid's apron. Jinkoji questions the situation, wondering why a devil is dressed as a maid. On the radio, Joe warns Anne to be ready for anything that might happen. Anne remembers hearing that the devil's tribe was considered extinct. The demon confirms that yes, your species is still very much alive. Gilbert steps forward, telling young soldier Anne to stay behind. He declares that he will take care of the devil and tell others to be ready. Your eyes narrow when you see something disgusting on the next floor. It's a discarded human skin, used as a grotesque disguise. Gilbert accuses the demon species of commanding the sinister guild of darkness. The demon's gloved hand touches the skin, confirming that his accusation is true. She complains that the ability to pretend to be human is hard to use. It states with a creepy purpose that humans only serve to be eaten. The young mother pants with this monstrous revelation. The demon confirms that the previous maid was consumed and replaced. Gilbert curses her, demanding to know when she switched places with their partner. The demon casually discards the last traces of his human facade. A flashback shows Gilbert releasing a carrier pigeon from a balcony. A monstrous gargoyle watches from a nearby roof, observing its actions. Gilbert remembers confronting the maid in disguise, knowing the Jaitai were coming. The demon admits he was interested in meeting Joe Jinguji of the Jaitai. His goal was to meet the legendary soldier and talk to him. She adds, with a long, sinister tongue, that she was also hungry. In the present, she thanks Gilbert for taking Jinguji directly to her. Gilbert warns Jinguji angry not to fall into the devil's provocations. Jinguji takes a step forward, ready to confront the demon directly. He asks her clearly what she wants from him. With his gun pointed, he claims he'll hear what she has to say. She notices her interesting magical tools, saying they convinced her of something. She states that Joe Jinguji is a reincarnated person sent by the goddess. Jinguji wonders internally if she knows about Kojiro, another reincarnated person. The devil snaps his teeth, stating that reincarnation is not the real intention. She suggests that the goddess gave her powers to make up for a mistake. His hand with claws extends, inviting Jinguji to go with them. She argues that those who have stolen things have the right to take it back. Jinguji faces back, his expression indecipherable while considering her offer. Anne observes her commander with a look of deep concern. Jinguji, your face hardening, asks if that's all she has to say. He shouts his absolute refusal to join her cause. The demon's expression changes to a genuine surprise. She asks why he would refuse her manipulative offer. Jinguji thinks of a lost loved one, stating that he cannot have back what is gone. He claims his will is to protect the people of this world. He declares that this is his only motivation and nothing else. The demon's surprise turns into disappointed boredom. She whispers that it's a shame, her plan having failed. It releases its power, causing a massive explosion in the APC. A giant worm monster with a wide mouth emerges from the earth. Its mouth is coated with a ring of sharp, needle-like teeth. The mother grabs her baby, her face a mask of pure terror. The demon, now winged, declares that this is the end of Joe Jinguji's story. In the clearing, a winged demon in maid's costume hangs over a monstrous worm. A crying baby, wrapped in cloths, is held precariously inside the fleshy mouth and full of worm teeth. The baby's horrified parents watch the terrifying spectacle unfold from a safe distance. A soldier, Jingiji, aim with his pistol, his expression of dark focus. The demon in silhouette emits a creepy ultimatum, threatening the baby's life if they move. She provokes them, commenting on how the milk-soaked baby looks delicious. Marion, the baby's mother, observes in absolute terror the cruel words of the devil. The creature promises to share the treat with his comrades on their return. Suddenly, the worm wriggles violently, sticking its fangs deep into the demon's arm. The devil screams of shock and pain, completely taken by surprise by betrayal. The worm gets loose, flying away from the demon, with the baby still safe. Her skin breaks out, revealing the soldier, and, in a daring maneuver in the air, Jingiji watches the incredible mistake unfold, his expression of pure shock. His hands are open, a gesture of profound surprise and immense relief. Anne lands hard on the ground, rolling to protect the baby she holds in her arms. She looks up, her face a mixture of confusing relief and persistent adrenaline. Near there, the real defeated worm lies soft and still on the ground. Jingiji's expression hardens with resolution as he points his weapon to the demon on the ground. A quick flashback shows Jingiji praising Anne for her tree surveillance skills. In on the tree, Anne breathes a sigh of relief after a successful shot. The memory confirms that Anne's surveillance position was part of her pre-planned strategy. Anne had confidently stated that her ability to climb trees made her perfect for the role. Back to the present, Jingiji takes a kneeling position, targeting the angry demon. He opens fire, his bullets burrowing the devil's body as it collapses to the ground. The defeated demon lies on the ground, his long tongue hanging in his final moments. His dying words express a creepy desire to have eaten his defenseless prey. Jingiji observes, alarmed, exclaiming that the creature is melting before his eyes. The ground becomes a viscous black as the demon's body decomposes quickly. A harmful gas fills the air, causing Jingiji to retreat with disgust and alarm. Anne, holding the baby, calls his comrade, his voice full of panic. She frantically warns him to hold his breath and keep his distance from the gas. A blackened skeleton lies in the goo, releasing a deadly curse after death. The curse will infect the earth and allow the devil to eventually regenerate. Anne orders Miranda to use recovery magic on the cursed remains immediately. Jingiji, with his face now masked, confirms that they must clean the corpse quickly. A small bird lands near the curse and is instantly dissolved into bones. Miranda's hands glow as she struggles to repel the corruption that is approaching. Anne insists that Miranda increase the power of her magic to combat the powerful curse. Miranda admits she can't contain the dark miasma much longer. Purifying magic fights the black goo that surrounds the demon skeleton. Jingiji closes his gloved fist, his mind running for a desperate solution. The use of explosives is discarded, as it would only spread the fetid contamination. A comrade boldly asks if Jingiji has a special tool in his storage. The words infinite storage spark a sudden and brilliant idea in Jingiji's mind. He yells at Miranda to back off, his new plan now in action. His comrades observe confused, demanding to know what he is planning to do. Jingiji advances with intense determination, ignoring his urgent questions. He holds his breath, his face a full focus and resolution mass. He raises his gloved hand, pointing it directly at the skull with cursed horns. A pure bright light bursts out of your open palm, enveloping the skeleton. His shocked comrades exclaim, questioning how he could possess such skill. Jingiji's face shows immense relief, his desperate bet having been worth it. He thinks to himself that his hunch was correct. The skeleton blinks and begins to dematerialize within the radiant light. It disappears completely, leaving behind only clean and immaculate land. He lowers his arm, releasing a sigh of deep relief. He stands for a moment, processing his incredible and unexpected success. He shouts in triumph, punching the air while Miranda smiles relieved. A flashback shows a peaceful shaman's house, the source of your idea. The maid with rabbit ears, Mrs. Bell, approached him with a polite request. The flashback shows a peaceful shaman's house, the source of your idea. The maid with rabbit ears, Mrs. Bell, approached him with a polite request. The maid with rabbit ears, Mrs. Bell, approached Jingiji with an educated request. A large, towing rat was trapped inside a sturdy wooden cage. Mrs. Bell explained that she couldn't get rid of the creature. Jingiji considered releasing him, but found it impractical to carry him around the city. The talk of the goddess reminded him that his storage should have no interference. He had extended his hand to the cage with the intention of using his storage ability. His hand went through the cage, but the rat remained unstorageable. Jingiji's expression showed his confusion with the unexpected failure of skill. The mouse, however, looked up with an almost smug expression. He had apologized to Mrs. Bell, explaining that only the cage was stored. The rodent took his chance, running for freedom. He then realized that living beings could not be placed in his inventory. That led to the suspicion that an undead corpse could be kept. A comrade realizes that this means that they can now fight demons without fear. A soldier with rabbit ears runs, drawing Mr. Jingaji. She reports having received communication from Sveni's allied forces. Locke, the golem pilot, asks if there's a problem with the call. The radio comes alive with a frenzied and unintelligible voice. Jingaji holds the radio, his expression of confused concern. A man called Antonio tries to speak frantically on the line. Marion, with her baby, recognizes her father's voice, asking if he's following them. Locke tries to manage the call, telling Antonio to wait his turn. Marion, in tears, tells her father that she and the baby are safe. Antonio is dominated by emotion, crying with joy and relief. Jingaji takes the radio, informing sobbing Antonio that their mission is complete. Locke expresses his deep gratitude. His mission of recognition was a success. The unit's armored vehicle is approaching Locke's golem to join the main force. Jingaji considers the enemy's goal of gathering other reincarnated people. He wonders if others besides him and Mr. Kojiro join them. He ponders whether Mr. Kojiro has also received an invitation from the demon lord. A comrade's urgent voice screams at Joe to stop the vehicle immediately. The massive tire of the other vehicle breaks sharply on the road. They are blocked by a large and desperate crowd of refugees. A flashback shows them taking care of those same refugees earlier. The soldiers found the people fleeing towers and offered them help. Marion told them the story of her rescue by the Jaitai. A woman holding a baby screams an alarm to her young master and Lady Marion. Some refugees, known to Marion's family, gather near an armored vehicle after hearing their story. A couple of old people carrying backpacks rush forward, joyfully exclaiming that someone is alive. A refugee informs his soldiers that it appears the Demon King's army has occupied Tars. A skeletal horseman symbolizes the common belief that the Demon King was a relic of the past. Amid the refugees, a soldier with rabbit ears asks concerned about the fate of the princess. A young woman holding an adult's hand wonders aloud if her older sister, Elizabeth, is okay. A desperate crowd presses the soldiers, asking if the Grand Duke and the Marquis are safe. A man named Lord Bunker scolds himself with anger for panicking and fleeing instead of fighting. Mastered by despair, Lord Bunker and his servants sit disheartened, showing how much they are loved. He then reassures people that the Grand Duke's army still defends the occupied castle. He declares that the allied forces, with Joe's group, Jaitai, will rescue the Grand Duke. A woman in the crowd recognizes the name Jaitai and asks if they are the group with the explosive Joe. Young Marion is questioned by an old man if the rumors about her saviors are true. The huge crowd of refugees surrounds the soldiers, their voices increasing with desperate energy. The soldiers observe, absorbing the despair of the crowd and their belief that they cannot win alone. An elderly couple shake hands, begging soldiers to save the Grand Duke in their town. The soldier with rabbit ears is frightened by the sudden appearance of a young woman. A young woman with little pusses, Lady Elizabeth, seems worried amidst the crowd of adults. The rabbit-haired soldier assures Lady Elizabeth that her father is safe in Sveni. She confidently proclaims that Lady Elizabeth is a good friend of her group, Jaitai. Lady Elizabeth absorbs the soldier's promise to protect her friends and family. The soldier turns to her stoic partner, asking him to confirm her promise to the young woman. Mr. Jingiji remains silent and serious, considering the weight of the request. Lady Elizabeth watches nervously, waiting for your answer. Jingiji's serious expression turns into a broad smile while he makes a positive sign of confidence. The young lady looks up, her expression of surprise relieved with his confirmation. A bandaged figure with rabbit ears whispers urgently to the welded. The soldier confirms the information whispered with a brilliant and knowledgeable smile. She calls Mr. Jingyuji, her eager and secret expression. She asks Jingyuji to lean in so she can tell you a secret. Jingyuji leans as she prepares to whisper in her ear. She reveals that the bandaged man is Jedi's older brother and looks like the hero Kojiro. The young woman, spying behind an adult, confirms that what the soldier said is true. Jingyuji discodes the idea that he is a great hero as legends say. He touches his helmet, pensive, processing this new information. He reflects that, despite his denial, he feels a kinship with the legendary Mr. Kojiro. In another place, two ninjas report to a hooded gentleman that Joe Jinkyuji is a magician. In an alleyway, members of the Dark Guild character report to Mr. Curtis and need backup from the window of a tower. A masked cultist is frightened by the transmission of Jingyuji to the guilds of darkness and mercenaries. Inside the tower, a young blonde cultist argues against calling Mr. Curtis, insisting that they can handle the threat alone. A ninja notes that cultists are obsessed with their own profit even with the arrival of Demon King. The masked lord of the Dark Guild silences the dissident, ordering his ninjas to eliminate Jingiji. He points to his captive ninjas, ordering them to execute the murder. A captive ninja looks up, questioning the command with one word. The ninja reassures her comrades not to worry, for they have a plan, while a cultist holds a boy enslaved by a leash. The arrival of Jitai's armored vehicle completely changed the dynamics of the siege. The occupants of the tower realize that their role has reversed. They are now besieged in the tower. They plan to use the tower's only spiral staircase as a strangulation point to execute their revenge. Jingiji announces by megaphone that it's time for him to attempt an attack. The enemy believes Jingiji's power comes from tools, making him physically vulnerable and killable. A cultist expresses doubt that Jingiji will come personally, but his leader seems to agree. A ninja confidently claims that Joe Jingiji will definitely come to face them. They observed how he acts when seeing injured people from terrors. The ninja is sure Jingiji will want to deal with them personally. A memory shows Jingiji in mourning in a forest, confirming his compassionate nature and his tendency to jump into danger. Cultists conclude that this protective nature is the very essence of who Joe Jingiji is. A captive ninja breaks her chains and warns her captors not to forget who they are dealing with. Two ninjas confidently claim that dealing with Jingiji should be left to them. The ninja tells her captors to worry about the slaves, one of whom is a small, terrified boy. A ninja warns that if the hostages become useless, Jiatai will destroy the tower. A pile of discarded weapons shows that many mercenaries have surrendered. However, no important member of the Dark Guild was among those who surrendered. Jingiji looks to the tower, planning to infiltrate and capture the living leaders. He gets scared with a loud voice calling his name. A man in armor, Fairway Bunker, Lord of Tars, praises Jingiji's splendid work. Fairway's hand grabs the side of the armored vehicle as he prepares to board. Fairway urges Jingiji to go punish the villains with him, for Jingiji's great alarm. Inside, Fairway complains of tight space, calling Jingiji an insistent person. He apologizes for the intrusion, but explains that they should speak privately. Jingiji is shocked to learn there are spies everywhere, causing significant problems. Fairway explains that he already told Duke Fairway about the confrontation with the demon. He describes him as a terrible demon wearing human skin, seeking Jingiji's agreement. He warns that in this coup, there are more threats than just demons. A ninja descends silently from the ceiling over a careless guard. A hand with a fishing net glove is shown silencing a victim from behind. The victim is subdued without a sound, showing the stealth of invisible enemies. On a roof, two ninjas argue rumors that the Dark Guild has its own ninja associates. Fairway is horrified, questioning the existence of ninjas and fearing they won't stand a chance. Jingiji darkly explains that enemy ninjas are modeled from a group of the legend of the hero Kojiro. Fairway finds it hard to believe that someone connected to the hero would ally with the Dark Guild. He desperately begs Lord Jingiji to use his power to help them infiltrate the tower. The memory of a demon woman reveals that Kojiro's ninjas are considered their enemies. Sir Jingiji and Fairway stand face to face, with the latter looking doubtful. Fairway realizes Jingiji is concerned that he may be a demon in disguise. With a resolute expression, Fairway takes a dagger from his belt. In a shocking display, he brutally drags the blade into his own forearm while a horrified Jingiji watches. Presenting his mutilated arm, Man declares that it is his own blood and flesh, proving his humanity. He explains urgently that the children of Turs are being held as slaves inside the tower. In love, he begs the soldier, a hero, to save his beloved people and his city. Private Jingiji is visibly moved by Man's desperate and bloody appeal. With his loyalty now absolute, he humbly agrees with the request. An army, complete with a massive golem and a modern tank, gathers before a formidable castle, while the defenders demand that they open the gate. Next to a tank with a megaphone, Jingiji transmits a final warning of his imminent attack. A requirement is issued from the castle walls for the defenders to lay down their weapons. A lone ninja, perched on a flagpole, calls Joe Jingiji to climb the tower. Inside, some defenders consider surrendering, relying on the safety assurance of the explosive Joe. Others know that they will not survive the approaching conflict, looking at their piles of illicit looting. Defenders decide to attack first before they are attacked. A single arrow is fired from the castle wall, beating uselessly into the tank cannon, which shoots in response. The ninja on the flagpole is shocked by the sudden and overwhelming display of force and is struck in the head by debris. Through the smoking hole in the wall, the wheel of a motorcycle advances, while a soldier with rabbit ears confirms the destruction of the gate. Jingiji and his passenger, Naxon, declare their blitzkrieg to invade the tower. The remaining defenders inside desperately try to shoot them down. Nansen, walking behind Jingiji, confirms he's ready for the attack. The motorcycle runs through the courtyard while the arrows fly harmlessly through them. Jingiji's keen eyes suddenly see something wrong in the wreckage. A hand dressed in a fishing net glove extends from broken stones. He realizes with a bump that is the hand of a woman trapped in the rubble. Fearing he lost a hostage, he runs to help, asking if she's okay. Naxon screams, warning him not to leave the protection of his defensive magic. Reaching the arrested woman, Jingiji tells her to hold on. The ninja girl with pointed ears lets out a groan of pain, apparently wounded. He watches your ninja outfit, but he thinks she looks like a normal girl. Suddenly your eyes turn white while our protagonist is hit by a flex. An archer on the walls aims at the chaotic scene below. Naxon stands next to the motorcycle, his face a mask of pure horror. An archer on the walls aims at the chaotic scene below. Naxon points his gun at the archer. Another soldier, Miranda, runs forward, screaming for someone to hurry. A drop of blood sneezes dangerously on the stone floor. The deflected arrow hits the stones uselessly. Jingiji looks at the ninja girl with concern. Miranda runs to heal Jingiji, but he weakly tells her it's enough. Jinguji's hand rests on the ninja girl's shoulder while he tells her to heal her instead. Suddenly, the ninja's eyes turn white while our protagonist is shot with an arrow. The rest of the squad arrives, asking if Joe is okay while he hugs the girl. A confused squad mate asks what just happened. Jinguji orders Miranda to take care of the ninja girl. He then orders his squadron to continue, running towards the entrance of the tower. He yells at Naxon to continue the operation with him. The ninja girl and Naxon beg him to wait and let them support him. Miranda watches him leave, his face a mask of deep concern. The ninja girl tells Joe that her wound was only superficially healed by her magic. A massive armored golem, your brother, stands between them, blocking your way. He orders the wounded to be evacuated to Type 96 APC. He severely reminds his sister Net to be distracted from his mission. A soldier is shocked that Joe would order the operation to continue while he was wounded. Miranda confirms that the Jitai must follow Joe's orders. She raises her hand, stating her decision to act. Miranda helps the injured ninja girl, who seems to be in pain. A single drop of sweat runs down her face while she makes a difficult choice. Miranda observes it, her own expression now of firm resolution. A kunai knife falls to the ground near a hooded figure. Another hooded figure looks over his shoulder, his cautious expression. A third masked figure calls his comrades. He calls them, asking for a private word. He instructs them to turn their backs so that their lips cannot be read. One of the ninjas asks what they should do about others. The masked figure asks if one of them was not dealing with Jedi. The leader dismisses his concerns, claiming he cannot die before he meets Mr. Curtis. He directs their attention to his boss, a lonely figure at a distance. A hooded figure with a spider mask and a tattoo on the temple observes. In a stone chamber, a woman with white hair is chained to a wall. A mantle figure with a spider mask is standing before her, a pendant on her chest. A brilliant magical secrecy appears in your extended palm. A woman captivates groans with pain while magic affects her. She throws her head back and screams agony at the torment. The spider mask leader boasts he won't mess with his boss. One subordinate notes that even the powerful tool Lord and Nat gave them did not work. They discuss how ruthless Lord and Nat's ninjas are, not abandoning friends. A woman with horns claims that while they have hostages, they can threaten them. The spider mask leader agrees, leading a boy in chains. The captive girl in the group suddenly looks up with alarm. Its expression is of shock and growing perception. The woman's eyes with horns spread by surprise, her tongue extended. One of his captors panics, realizing that his prisoner has suddenly regained consciousness. The captive calls out terror while a cultist pulls his chains. With a strong pull, the masked man pulls the heavy chain, trying to reaffirm his control. A grotesque fleshy worm with an open mouth erupts from the neck of the captiva, horrifying its captors. He furiously rebukes his subordinate, accusing him of administering the wrong dose to his prisoner. The worm-headed monster drags him across his chains as he screams to stop. A woman with dark skin and horns intervenes calmly, offering to take the hand of the terrified cultist. She reassures him with a malicious smile, promising that she will not eat him and offer him something good. A flashback reveals two other cultists discussing the loyalty of their ninja captives. One had worried that ninjas could use chaos to launch a surprise attack on their boss. His companion had foolishly discarded his concerns, believing that it would not matter even if they did. In another chamber, Lord Inet declares the death of a man named Joe Jinguji is near. He coldly comments that although it is a pity, they must prepare to escape. The Lord then orders the disposal of his inventory, a row of captive and defeated-looking children. He plans to use the ninjas for the dark task so they can still make a profit. Suddenly, a modern combat boot hits the face of a masked cultist. A cloaked soldier jumps into the fight, hitting a powerful flying kick on another cultist. The remaining mantle figures look with total disbelief at the unexpected and overwhelming attack. The soldier continues his attack, hitting another brutal kick that shatters the captor's mask. It moves like a whirlwind, leaving the remaining cultists stunned and terrified. A cultist screams out of terror as the tide of battle turns decisively against them. While he fights, two small figures of dark hair, free ninjas, roll through the air. The two ninjas land safely, their hidden expressions, but their clear intention. The soldier, Jingyuji, holds the cult leader on the ground, declaring the area suppressed. Lord Annette, defeated, demands to know how Jingyuji could be there. He questions how the soldier could have climbed the winding stairs of the tower. Jingyuji mocks the question, stating that JSDF personnel can handle stairs without problems. Another soldier appears, confirming that he was trained by Zhu and was also able to keep up. Lord Annette screams he's not asking about the stairs, he wants to know how they defeated the ninja. Jingyuji reveals the truth while he is over the defeated lord. The ninja was never your enemy. A brief flashback shows Lord Annette begging a ninja to help him. Lord Annette realizes with growing horror that his secret weapon was a double agent. In another chamber, a woman chained with long white hair and fox ears listens attentively. An expression of understanding crosses your face. She realizes this must be the man, Joe Jingyuji. From behind, the soldier in complete combat equipment remains resolved with his weapon in hand. The foxwoman looks at the brilliant and emblematic lock on her collar. Suddenly, Jingyuji turns around, alerted by a sound of his comrade. A desperate cultist prepares a spell, a brilliant secrecy appearing in his open palm. From her chains, the woman wife screams with renewed disobedience that the fight is not yet over. The flashback shows a ninja being ordered to kill the captured Jingyuji, with Lord In screaming to kill him immediately. The wider scene reveals several captive ninjas while a Lord in cloak orders the death of Joe Jingyuji. A tower of high and formidable stone rises, a symbol of the challenge that awaits you. A montage shows the situation inside the tower. A cultist with a medallion, a woman in chains and ninjas hanging from the ceiling. A close-up shows the captive fox woman, Sakura, with a challenging look despite her chains. The captor demands that Sakura tell you everything he knows about Joe Jingyuji. Two ninjas hanging upside down, apparently unconscious in their chains. A ninja reports to Sakura that the Jitai unit began to approach the tower. Sakura chain confirms that Joe Jingyuji's arrival is happening exactly as she predicted. One of the hanging ninjas asks why Lady Sakura won't let them eliminate the Dark Guild. A masked cultist, a subordinate of Init, discards Jingyuji's threat, stating that they do not have to wait for reinforcements for only one person. Activist Sakura warns his companions not to fall into the provocations of their captors, recognizing them as a tactic. A woman with Sakura safe horns, reminding her that her enemies manipulate people's hearts and that they cannot resist. Sakura remembers being warned that reinforcements were lurking, not to panic, and that the Jitai would certainly come. Head down, a ninja urges his comrades to hurry. A masked cultist holds a magic medallion, threatening to kill his hostage. Joe Jingyuji confronts a masked cultist on a roof, who gesticulates for him to stop. Jingyuji issues a severe warning, demanding that the masked figure release the hostage and surrender. The cultist scorns Jingyuji's security offer, calling him stupid. While a commander asks if there is any other option than surrender, the cultist activates a magical medallion. Jingyuji receives an enigmatic message through his earphone, expressing disappointment. A new voice confirms that the operation began, while small objects fall from the ceiling, surprising the cultist. Jingyuji assumes a combat posture, appearing to activate a skill. The cultist retreats in panic toward a stone arch amid a flash of light. A large, dark hand emerges from a bright portal inside the arch. The gloved hand with an eye symbol extends with focused power. A close-up shows the hand being hit in an attack. The defeated cultist lies on the stone floor below a window with bars. The gloved hand of the golem, with an eye symbol, closes in a powerful fist. A massive stone golem with horns emerges from the portal. A soldier on a distant roof observes the appearance of the golem with shock. The cultist's hand is struck by a magical counterattack, dissolving into black particles as he retreats. While the cultist screams out of agony, a voice declares the operation is over. A ninja called Miranda jumps toward the defeated cultist while another warns her that there are many casualties. Another ninja begs Miranda not to kill the helpless captive. The scene shows the ninja preparing to attack the prisoner on the ground. The defeated captive screams in challenge to Joe Jingyuji. An aerial view of the city of Tar is now under Jidai's control while the narrative states that their mission is to bring him to trial. A crowd of citizens gather, with the narrative explaining that they need a resolution for events in the city. Jingyuji sincerely begs that the prisoner not be killed. The masked prisoner growls at the approaching ninja, convinced that a trial is a lie and begging her to kill him now. A shocked Jingyuji asks if the prisoner's deep mistrust is shared by all his friends. The ninja hesitates, frightened by the prisoner's desperate appeal for death. A blonde woman in chains watches the scene with an expression of surprise. The blonde woman in chains, Sakura, whispers that the result is exactly as she expected. The ninja kunai falls out of his hand, tingling on the stone floor. A girl with fox ears, Sakura, sits in bed, scared and disoriented after being rescued. She looks around with a worried, confused expression. Seeing her reflection in a window, she asks fretfully where she is. Their sensitive fox ears contract, picking up the sounds of a distant commotion. Sakura's ears spin, focusing on the noise coming from outside her room. The outside view shows a large building with many arch windows indicating a celebration. Sakura looks at a huge hall full of people celebrating. The tables in the hall are filled with a magnificent banquet, including a whole roasted bird. A man raises his glass, leading a toast to Jit. Amid a lively crowd of partygoers. Two men at the party loudly demand more food and alcohol. A maid with fox ears informs Lady Sakura that she is awake. A maid with rabbit ears and several ninjas disguised as maids surround Lady Sakura with concern, bringing her food. The maid with rabbit ears is shocked to realize that the newcomers are ninjas in disguise. Two of the ninjas in maids' costumes seem embarrassed as they wonder why they are dressed like that. Jingyuji explains that it was his suggestion that all ninjas dress in maid's clothes. The maid of rabbit ears is shocked, realizing that she misjudged Jingyuji's character. A party visitor explains the plan. They introduced the ninjas as ransomed hostages. This was done because the people of Tars would have trouble accepting immediately the ninjas. A smoking bowl of soup is presented, an invitation to enjoy the meal. The ninjas in disguise explain that the rabbit tribe soup is light, easy to digest, and very nutritious. Lady Sakura thanks you, with a grateful expression on her face, and asks for Sir Jingyuji later. Jingyuji stands before a collection of treasures, refusing to accept so much. While a Grand Duke insists and Anne argues with him. Anne grabs Jingyuji's shirt, demanding to get rich without paying taxes. Jingyuji looks with a tired expression and a little stunned by Anne's explosion. He moves away from the treasure, approaching a different display with his allies. Jingyuji asks if he can have only one specific modest item. The Grand Duke agrees without hesitation, while his butler, Sebastian, protests that it is a family heirloom. The Duke insists that Sir Jingyuji is the one who deserves to have him. The object is revealed as a paper crane, a desire for peace left by Sir Kojiro after the last war. Mrs. Bell serves Jingyuji a cup of tea, inviting him to drink. He sits with Lady Sakura, who tastes her own tea thoughtfully. Sakura comments that tea is very soothing, enjoying a moment of peace. Her expression gets serious when she asks Jingyuji and Bell if they know the name Curtis. In an interrogation room, two older prisoners deceive their captors, claiming ignorance. Two younger prisoners echo the same feeling, refusing to speak. The interrogators realize the captives will resist until the trial. One of them curses, recognizing the impasse as a battle of friction, while Jingyuji decides to try a new tactic, calling the next prisoner. The youngest blonde prisoner is driven by a chained stone corridor. Jingyuji watches him for a moment before deciding for a private conversation. They sit across from each other at a simple table in a courtyard. Jingyuji leans forward, his intense look as his questioning begins. The blonde prisoner finds a look, his expression tired but challenging. The prisoner begins his story, saying that his wound has already been healed. He shows the healing mark on his hand, a testimony of magic. A flashback shows a girl in a printed dress, healing him in bed. He explains that a girl dressed as Jingyuji's companion was the one who cured him. Jingyuji asks his companion, a camouflage woman, the girl's name. After a break, he identifies the healer as Miranda. His companion explains that Miranda was one of the slaves they had gathered. The prisoner absorbs this information, its dark expression. A woman with fox ears, Sakura, gently drinks from a cup of tea. Sakura explains that Curtis and hero Kojiro were once comrades. She explains that Lord Kojiro organized the ninjas, an exclusively female intelligence unit, and after his death, entrusted his command to Curtis. Sakura remembers inheriting her grandmother's will to serve, leading the ninjas under Curtis' command. It describes their mission to identify the seeds of conflict in the city from the outset, ensuring that peace was never extinguished. Sakura reflects that, in recent years, they were very proud of their clandestine work. But recently, an organization aimed at resurrecting the Demon King grew in power, and the situation worsened. She saw her dark figures gather, the situation worsening. The dark figures gathered in the streets, a sign of worsening the situation. Sakura remembers being captured, her world turned upside down. She remembers going to see Lord Curtis, who serves a cup of coffee. He greeted her, noting that it was unusual for her to use the front door. He invited her to sit down, offering her a cup. Jingyuji, also present, refuses the offer, stating he has a question for Curtis. Curtis recognizes him with a simple, "I understand" tense air. At that meeting, Curtis dismissed the rumors about him, citing the lack of evidence. He turns to Sakura, his unreadable expression, and manipulates her, asking if she believes him, since she came alone. Sakura reaffirms his loyalty by swearing to serve him as his predecessor served Kojiro. Curtis smiles, please, but warns her to be more careful. A demon figure hangs behind Sakura, whispering that his work is not about belief. In a memory, a woman with fox ears sits before Jingeji, regretting having believed the ninja idea. The city of Tars begins the long process of reconstruction under a cloudy sky, with a huge two-arm excavator removing the debris. Two boys watch amazed, one excitedly asking if it's the new version of the hero's iron crab. Jingeji operates the machine, feeling a strange sense of deja vu while his companions comment on his new hero status. A flashback shows the Grand Duke Fairway proclaiming Jingeji the second-generation hero to an animated crowd. The boys marvel that the hero is walking in the machine, while Jingeji decides that he does not care about the title if his skills are useful. Inside the cabin, however, Jingeji admits to himself that he finds the new title deeply embarrassing. His expression becomes serious as he contemplates the heavy responsibility of being a hero. He thinks of Curtis, another reincarnated person who was once a comrade of the great hero Kojiro. Looking at the city in recovery, he wonders what kind of person this Curtis is. A long-haired man fights to set up a tent for help. Jingeji asks what the man is screaming about. The man faces in shock, realizing that a ninja has already set up tents for them. A long line of people wait patiently for food amid the ruins of the city. A boy called Dao holds his bowl, looking up with expectation. Your father tells him to be patient and wait his turn. The boy asks his father if the city has been fixed, realizing it must be the work of ninjas. Later, Dao happily eats a sandwich, surprised at how quickly things are moving. A narration explains that Miss Sakura is secretly helping with the reconstruction of Tars. Jingeji pauses in her work, having a drink while a maid with rabbit ears, Miss Bell, stays close by. He remembers the words of regret of Miss Sakura, realizing you shouldn't have believed the ninja idea. Ninja is spotted on a roof, scaring the viewers. Dao understands the ninja situation, knowing that his leader, Curtis, would never let them out of his control. A high stone tower rises against the sky, a symbol of ninja status as enemies of all. A ninja maid observes a father and a son, knowing that her species must remain hidden because she has no home. Jingeji takes a certain sip of his water bottle. I'm sorry, Bell asks Jingeji what will happen to the ninjas when his work is done, and he makes a decision. Jingeji's determination is heard by a ninja maid on a roof, who is so shocked that she falls. Jingeji passionately declares his intention to take care of everyone. He and Miss Bell watches as the ninja beats spectacularly in a building below. The fallen ninja is overwhelmed by emotion, realizing that he intends to take care of them. I'm sorry, Bell points out that although polygamy is permitted, he is surrounded by many women. She tries frantically to explain that her statement is a misunderstanding and not a romantic relationship. Jingeji insists, shouting that he will protect everyone, including Miss Sakura. Another strong hit scares them when a second ninja falls from the sky. They look unbelieving while another maid apparently fell from above. A montage shows several fallen ninjas reacting with emotion to Jingeji's statement. Jingeji asks Miss Bell how many ninjas there are, and she replies that she heard there were 12 in total. After several weeks of reconstruction, the Jaitai leave the restored city of Tars. Inside a moving vehicle, a small origami crane is hanging in the rearview mirror, noted as being cute. A girl teases Jingeji about the reward, and he apologizes, promising to make it up to her. A dark-skinned woman eats, thinking Jingeji likes to be called a hero, even if she pretends not. Jingeji's armored vehicle moves on as he reflects that he has found his reason for being in this world. The scene ends in a dark coffee mug, its vapor sinisterly forming a skull, while the name Lord Curtis is mentioned. A dark-skinned elf reports to a man named Curtis that Jingeji left Tars. Curtis, holding a mug, smiles and comments that this new development will be fun. The elf smiles, admitting that new encounters still excite her even when she gets older. Curtis looks away, quietly asking an invisible goddess if she understands. A woman with wavy hair looks with a severe and determined expression near a ruined wall. In a flashback, Curtis sits on top of a tank, declaring a drink is good. He asks for the opinion of his subordinate elves all during. One of the elves shows his fangs, saying amusingly that they don't like that bitter juice. Curtis hears their answer with a fun look. A dark stone corridor is flanked by imposing statues of knights in armor. Another soldier passes through a statue, its tense expression as she decides to move on. An eye inside the helmet of one of the knights opens, revealing that he is alive. The long, shaky ears of a soldier bunny signal that something is wrong. She feels a presence, feeling that something is strange in the quiet hallway. The soldier, Anne, looks nervously to the side, unaware of the imminent danger. Your eye bursts in understanding. Just a moment too late. The animated knight grabs Anne from behind, pressing his own gun on her head as she screams. The rabbit-haired soldier apologizes to Anne for not noticing the threat in time. Anne panics, remembering she was warned not to shock the gun after releasing the safety lock. A maid with fox ears appears in a blink of an eye, neutralizing the knight with a quick blow. She asks the terrified Anne if she's hurt, her expression of calm concern. Another waitress tells a soldier named Jaitai to wait while they handle the situation. She spies down the corridor, now dark, feeling more enemies lurking. The maids tell Jaitai to wait a little longer while preparing to clean up. The runner is now free, and the two soldiers marvel at the incredible ninja skill. In another chamber, a masked ninja complains with Lady Sakura that her maid's clothes are hard to fight. Sakura reminds them that the clothes were a gift from Jojingyuji. With immediate danger past, she declares that now is the time to pray. A serene blonde woman leads a group of feral children rescued in prayer. She kindly reminds them not to forget to pray to the goddess. No matter how difficult the times, the children sit with their hands in place while she leads prayer. A cloaking soldier, Jaitai, invades the room with an alarmed look. He eagerly asks if everyone is safe, his gaze falling on a group in prayer. The blonde woman, Princess Leticia, turns to him with a serene but authoritarian look. Jaitai recognizes her as the princess, but she interrupts him before he can speak. She puts a finger on her lips, stating that before the goddess, even a slave trader must bow his head. Jaitai is silent, captivated by the intense power in his eyes. A building in the ruins of Tars crumbles to dust, a sign of recent conflict. Curtis sits in the midst of destruction, his expressions changing while he gets a report. His subordinate elves smile while delivering their information. Curtis discovers that Shojingyuji successfully subdued the remaining Dark Guild. The elf continues, reporting that they lost most of the high-value slaves, including the daughter of an earl. She gives the news with a happy, almost mocking smile. She concludes that they can no longer expect any profit from the Guild of Darkness. Curtis hears in pensive silence, his illegible face, while suing failure. A single drop of liquid falls into his dark mug, sending a ripple through his surface. Amid the desolate ruins, a man in a coconut hat named Curtis thinks of a device. His subordinate elf asks if he is paying attention, which he quietly confirms. She mentions an excellent woman named Sakura, praised by a knight for her skill. Curtis wonders out loud if it was a good idea to let her go. The elf woman hears, her unreadable expression, while her forehead contracts slightly. Suddenly, angry, Curtis dismisses the Dark Guild as irrelevant. He throws his mug. Her subordinate watches her smash into the ground. Amid the shards, he admits he gets bored easily, calling it a bad habit. He finds the situation monotonous, discovering that a man named Init is now missing. Somewhere else, a soldier called Joe realizes the beginning of the rain. A young woman asks if she should activate the windshield wipers, and he confirms it. Their convoy, an armored car and a truck is moving in through the rain. The group disembarks from their vehicles in the torrential rain. Princess Leticia eats of a box of holy, delighting herself with the delicious meal. A hooded Jingyuji, holding a container that glows magically, is honored that she likes it. For weeks, they've been returning kidnapped people, including 2 sex children. A woman observes that they will reach their destination, Isedoibai, the next morning. On the wall of a castle, a knight observes a pigeon, commenting that they may arrive before the message. A map shows the accelerated route from Tars to Isedoibai with the important captives. The escort includes nobles from areas with diplomatic ties to the city of Tars. The knight tells a soldier that it was wise to ask Jitai for help. An ancient portrait of a noble family illustrates the political risk of kidnapping. Princess Leticia is the beloved daughter of Count Simkas of Isedoibai. The knight requests a quick and secure escort mission from the insistent Jedi. Princess Leticia, safe for now, wishes to meet with her family soon. Leticia feels guilty for eating alone, thinking of her companion Ariella. Jingyuji hears the request with a serious and thoughtful expression. Jingyuji reassures her, saying that Ms. Bell's serving Ariella's food right now. A woman with rabbit ears, Belle, calls for Ariella, offering her a meal. His voice echoes over a large puddle that ripples with heavy rain. A sudden violent splash bursts out of the water. Belle screams by surprise, retreating from the commotion. A woman with thin ears, Ariella, kneels in the water, completely soaked. It murmurs with an expression of ecstasy that the rain is good. One of his companions asks for the whereabouts of Leticia. Another one points out that Leticia is eating in the back of the truck. Belle offers the food to Ariella, who looks with surprise. She explains that in a meal is a dish called Ketsuden. Princess Leticia savors her own portion, calling it crispy and tasty. A soldier confirms that Sir Jingiji is serving the same food for everyone. Jingiji himself watches the scene unfold, a thoughtful sound escaping from it. A Miss Belle of severe appearance confronts the maid of rabbit ears, calling her gentle. The maid insists, crying, that she is not hungry and does not need the food. Your anguish is evident as you address the imposing Miss Belle. I'm sorry. Belle announces that the rain is stopping and that they must prepare to leave. The scene moves to a sunny and tropical location, where a woman named Stasha is satisfied with the weather. An officer reports that Joe Jingiji and the Jaitai are arriving on schedule. He gives orders to his 4 subordinate elves. He orders his 4 subordinate elves to prepare a table, chairs, and kettle. A masked soldier holds a bright kettle, declaring hospitality is ready and it's time to start the party.